live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, click OK, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Citation, please.
Yeah, I just tore into somebody in the pre-show for being disingenuous and lying about what an elevation angle is, giving us a forum post about how you calculate a distance isn't how you measure an elevation angle, and when calling the person out on it 10 times, they just doubled and tripled down on their disingenuous behaviour to the point of deceit and lies. Told me, when asked why he would do that, that I asked for that to happen. These people are utter scum. Glove, scumbags. That's what we deal with here. Anyway, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Negative.
Well, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius? Is that it? Well, that was a quick housekeeping session. I'll take that as a no. Shout out to Crockett for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. He says, Nathan Oakley, this is my favourite Nathan Oakley 1980s ace. Trust me, bro. I'm in the know, so please don't call me fake. You like that Trust Me Bro song by Mr. Cheswick? Shout out to Mr. Cheswick. He's absolutely on fire at the moment. My kids, whenever I play one of his songs, they burst into the room, which turns into a studio in the truest sense of the word when I start the show, right? I kick them out because I wouldn't want to be accused of abusing them if they make some noises. And I turn the mic on, turn the camera out, pull the lights out, do all the studio stuff, turn it into a studio. And then when I play one of the songs, I have my output line for the computer sound quite high. So when I play something, the monitoring of that is actually quite loud in the room, right? So when Trust Me Bro came on, it's like, it's a proper good beat, right? It's a proper dance track. It's, hey, I love that dance music's great. And so my kids, because I'm listening it into the car and on my stereo generally, when it's not a studio, right? This turns back into a lounge and the system becomes a TV. And music centre. So I play music, it's often dance music. So Trust Me Bro comes on and the kids burst in and I just turn the camera on them like I did when I played Where's the Guns, Nathan? And they're boogieing and dancing to it because it's ace. Mr. Cheswick is awesome. So yeah, Trust Me Bro, I absolutely love it. QE can't stand it because he doesn't like dance music.
What?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful dance music song. That guy's on the money, boy.
Yeah, I watch him work. He does live streams. I don't know if people are aware, but when Mr. Cheswick's creating these songs, he'll go live. He deletes the stream so that it's not like the process doesn't become the focus. It's the song that becomes the focus. But the process itself, he will allow people to enjoy him in his creative nature. And I mean, I am creative. Obviously, I'm producing YouTube materials, but not in that way. My daughter's much more creative in that way than I am. Eleanor, that is my eldest daughter. So I'm going to encourage her to be like that, you know, and she obviously watches Mr. Cheswick because I'm watching him and she comes in and watches him do his thing. So I'm hoping that she'll be similar and want to be arty in that regard, like make music. But I've got a lot of admiration. I'm not particularly musical. Yes, I had to do it when I was in college, much to my disdain. I didn't want to. But I admire people who did. I like the musos more than I like the people in the performing arts course. For the most part, they're a lot more laid back and less hyperactive. So there we go. That's enough about that anyway. A couple of shout outs. So shout out to, it could be regular, it could be Reg, but Reg Joe did a response to, I can't remember the guy's name. He's a guy that was hiding his face with some blue X symbols on his eyes. whoever that guy was, he made a response to our response to him claiming flat Earth's a cult, and us agreeing with him for the most part, but saying no, we aren't necessarily in that cult, because when we challenged it initially, if you wanted to say we were originally, that would have been fine, but he's kind of not. And in his response to us, he's saying, no, you must be bundled with Jaren and Witsit. And regular Joe's pulling apart, much to my amusement all morning. I say all morning, I went out to a class with one of my same daughter, the eldest daughter, to learn how to be an animator, which is an excellent class. Not that I should be a baby boy talking about my kids, but I just can't help it. It's because we're talking about Cheswick and songs and stuff, and yeah, that helped me talk about my eldest daughter, who's very creative. Anyway, right, yeah, so shout out to Reg Joe. If you're listening to this, thank you so much for doing your response video. It's obviously not for my benefit. You were responding to somebody who's talking about me, but by the same token, it's nice to have to be able to sit back and listen to somebody else critique from a third-party perspective, a response to us responding to him claiming flat Earth's a cult, because I can't do that. It gets too convoluted if I'm responding to him, responding to me, responding to him, if you know what I mean. So hearing Regular or Reg Joe do it was great. Thank you so much. So check that out. Hopefully one of the mods from YouTube chat will stick a link to. It's REGJOE, Reg Joe or Regular Joe. He does appear on the panel, but he was defending my virtue to a certain degree. I'm flattered. But moreover, he's just pointing out numpty idiocy from globe believers, in this case from that guy with the X eyes. Self-indulgent as they all are, people are like this, so I don't necessarily go on the same vein as Reg did in this regard, but the guy mistook a lot of internal debate between flat earthers, namely Jaren, Witsit, me, QE, who fundamentally disagree on most things, right, as a consequence of him and his reaction to TFE video. So when he's, as I said, he's saying things like, you can't just pass the torch back to Witsit and Jaren. It's like, no, you're trying to stereotype me with them when I stand in opposition to them. And that's not because of you, though, Dumbo.
Nathan.
So when Reg is pointing out, it's hilarious. So check out Regular Joe's video on that response, because it is very funny in places. Long, but funny. He's doing all of the due diligence on the fly. I've got to give another example. So when he's pointing out that the excise guys is saying Nathan's got all his stuff behind a paywall, and Regular Joe's like, no, let's go and have a look what is actually on Nathan's Patreon. And there's all my comments saying you basically get nothing. It's a glorified donation. And Regular Joe's pointing that out to the guy with his essentially straw man arguments that he's putting to us as a group when we're separated from that group who wants to straw man. I'm done. Sorry.
Do you realize that this guy in comments got so angry that he accused you of child abuse? That's how bad these people are.
I often get accused of child abuse. You're talking about the same guy, the excise guy.
That's correct. In the comments, he got so angry, he began to accuse you of child abuse. So this is what we got.
Yeah, these people get very upset with me as a man when I point out how Earth's measured flat. And how, yes, there's what seems like, or could be justifiably described as, a controlled opposition narrative. Now, I wouldn't for one second allude to that personally, but that's what it's, when we poke fun, admittedly, positioned as by a lot of the people who oppose flat Earth. And it's rightly so that they should. And so I'm still agreeing with the guy in his original video format, right? What's his name? So I'll stop calling him X-Eyes. Can't remember. But I would agree. It's just we're not part of that, and he wants it to be. The whole point of TFE is to stereotype all of us. Why do you think McToon's calling me from Antarctica? Right? Because he's distressed at the fact he can't bundle us in with all of the garbage strawman burning idiots that have aligned with the AE map that we debunked in 2016. It's just like, okay, you're not going to know that from the fringes. You're just going to see what the mainstream presents to you. And it's no different with this, right? You get a skewed view that is the view that they algorithmically want to be presented to you. The stuff that's censored doesn't reach you. So I can't blame him for having a skewed view. That's how the algorithm deals these contextually out to the average Joe normie. Anyway. So yeah, another big shout out to Regular Joe. Hopefully somebody's put a link to his channel in the chat so you can actually go and subscribe to him, because he's got a very tiny little channel. I'm sure he doesn't normally make videos. He just felt not obliged, but compelled to with this numpty misrepresenting us because he's upset. So it doesn't surprise me that he's in the chat calling me a child abuser, because he's upset. You could hear it in his voice in the response. It's written all over him. Very amusing to us, especially when they think that they're somehow consequential to what's going on.
You get his name yet?
I don't know. I can't remember. I'm more inclined to just
Cyberwalker.
What's he called?
Cyberwalker.
Cyberwalker. Cyberwalker? Really? Well, that doesn't sound familiar. It was cyber something, not Walker. Anyway, who cares? I'm more inclined to promote Regular Joe. We sent people to his channel, and from what I can tell, obviously Reg Joe's responded to it. He's made a response. Well, did he put a link to my video in it? I don't know. Presumably not, because nobody's coming to my channel going, oh, this, that, and the other from Excise guy. I normally get a general gist if somebody's coming to my channel because they've been sent here directly or indirectly by the videographer. That was the other thing that Regular Joe pointed out, right? This guy has made this list and pretended that he had the list preemptively. Like he's come up with a list before he's made a video about us being cult members. And then after the video's published, lo and behold, all the things he predicted on his list actually happened. One of them being that the audience, whoever it was that would respond, would be directed to come to his video. Like we'd be rallied against him. So he uses me saying, go to this guy's video, say it, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. It's like, there you go, I predicted it. Like, you little bullshitter. You mean you watched my video, wrote down a few of the key points that actually took place, and pretend like you predicted them. So again, Reg Joe goes, no, he does that with everyone, Dumbo. Here you go, here's 3 examples of him doing it. But that took 20 minutes because he's obviously got to scroll through the videos and find where I've got a link going out to the audience. And I'm saying basically the same words. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So again, in this guy's deluded, I'm the centre of the world, he thinks that everything that happens is directly related to him personally, when it's just like, that's what happens on almost every show. This isn't personal to you. But he's taken it very personally and is now, calling me a child abuser? Oh, right, yeah. Defamatory information you're putting out there because you're upset because we've made you look silly with your generalizations and stereotype fallacies. Yeah, we have made you look silly. Just deal with it. Learn from it. Don't call me a child abuser, you scumbag. I'm not.
You give the reasons why to share the algorithmic love. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I send a load of people to his channel to leave comments. I specifically tell them to be nice. And his response is to come to the chat and call me a child abuser. Oh, gee, thanks. Share your pain, dickhead. You think you're new? You think that's what, somehow unique? We've been doing this 10 years. You're no different to every other numpty. Just so you can get a little bit more annoyed with me, maybe another response and share your pain. No, Nathan's just a thick flat earther who beats his children. No, we made you look silly because you used a lot of stereotyping and generalization fallacies. We pointed out how wrong they were, making you look dumb. Don't have to like it. You could learn from it if you're a bit more mature, but I'm guessing you're not. And that's why you're wearing a mask.
You said something earlier that whole TFE thing was done for Globe Cope.
Yes.
So I think you're right about everything. It's all share your
I didn't say that. Rory Cooper said that. So that was on, I was watching it actually on Flat Earth Banjo, USA, Japan, Brazil channel. Hope I've said his name right. Check him out. Anyway, on Flat Earth Banjo's channel, he's re-upped and then did a full 2 hours or maybe longer live video response taking apart. Now, Banjo's leaning into Rory Cooper's video for different reasons, so I'm leaning into it, right? He's leaning into it because he's saying there's I can't remember, a jib or something like that, a technique, a videographer technique that I'm unfamiliar with, so I'm not going to speak on it. Now, Rory Cooper definitely sounded familiar with it. He sounded like he did it professionally from what he was alluding to. So go and listen to Rory Cooper's take on that. Now, it doesn't ultimately change my stance, but for the sake of this, I can agree with him. I'll say, all right, so it's all faked based on what you're suggesting with your experience. Very interesting. I can definitely agree with you on that. What's that next, man? Obviously they went there and it all's real. Oh, okay, I'll definitely accept that as well. Like, aside from me completely disavowing it and saying it's all fake, I can do both. Inconsequential in either instance. I can accept it at face value. I can decline it at face value. I can accept that it's all been faked at face value or decline that it's all been faked at face value. Doesn't make any difference. So you want to assume that, like everybody else who's got in a tizzy over a 24-hour sun, that somehow, oh no, that means it's all over for flat Earth. No, it isn't. It might be for the numbskulls that followed in the footsteps of Jaron and his little cult, but not us. Nobody here has any qualms with seeing a 24-hour sun. Like, okay, great. Does it mean all the flat Earth believers will now bugger off? Good! They weren't much help to us anyway. 93 people
When
watching.
we see it,
Please share the show. Smash that share button. It's just a couple of clicks. Go ahead, Neil.
when we see a 24-hour sun, I still haven't seen a 24-hour sun. I'm not convinced. But anyway, it wouldn't bother me in the least. You're right about that.
Well, the measurements that they've offered off the back of it are flat Earth proving measurements. But for the antipodal assumption, that's to say that south, a direction that's only capable of delineating a flat Earth, is actually antipodal, three-dimensional, when that's not how compasses or south is or works. It's an antipodal assumption that I don't buy. So, okay, they go south, great. They arrive on the Antarctic shelf, great. I don't disagree with any of that. They see a 24-hour sun, okay, great. Now what? Well, now it's all over for flat Earth map that's actually a globe projection. Yeah, it was over for, I didn't stand by that from 2016 onwards when I knew it was wrong. And what next? Well, it proves a globe. Oh, how does it prove a globe? Well, when I go down... You mean south? That's not down. What do you mean it's not down? Have you ever looked at a compass? What are you talking about? Oh, you mean you assume you're going to the bottom of a globe? That's begging the question, though, isn't it? You're automatically assuming that you're going to the bottom of a globe. You don't need to look at anything. You've already assumed that you're on the bottom of a globe when you arrive in Antarctica, though, haven't you? It's called an antipodal assumption. If you now formulate that into, if I assume I'm on the bottom of a globe, I'll see a 24-hour sun, and I do, therefore I'm on the bottom of a globe, that's called an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. So, but for the fact that you assume that you're going to the bottom of a globe when you go to the Antarctic shelf, you haven't actually got anything that this proves at all. So let's start looking at what you measured when you looked at the 24-hour rotating sun. According to your observations, you get these angles from it. Off a flat Earth. Well, that proves you've measured flat Earth then. Well done, welcome to flat Earth. Like all measurements of Earth always, we'll be measuring it flat. And they did. Exactly as we predicted. So what can I call it, science? I can easily allude to us suggesting, that's a prediction, strictly speaking, in Baltardia. Therefore, this is science. I predicted they'd measure a flat Earth. I've scientifically validated Earth's flat by their standards. I predicted they'd measure it flat, and they did! Science! 106 people watching. Smash that share button if you've not done so already. We do have a video that Vlad suggested. You were getting ripped into, were you not? Somebody was moaning about you on Ballbusters, weren't they, Mush? Was it Mush?
No, it wasn't him.
Was it someone else?
Yeah, that wasn't me, man. I asked him as soon as he came, and he said it was some other Vlad that he knew.
It was a different Vlad. You go by several different names, right? But you are also a Vlad.
Yeah, I'm Vlad, but that's the only name I go by. What do you mean, different names? Oh, you mean nickname on the Discord? Obviously, Mighty Mush, but I have one name.
No, but there's obviously other Vlads and you, so okay, cool.
Yeah.
So did you want us to cover this? This is from Answers in Genesis, right?
Yeah, not that I want to. That's the only vid that I came that's relevant. So if you want something to do on the show today, it's there's a lot of views.
Okay. I mean, it's hopefully relevant. I mean, we'll do it cold as ever. Okay, so this is Answers in Genesis, who we're all familiar with to a certain extent. Is there anybody who's unfamiliar with this? Wow, look how young Robbie Davidson looks in this. Was this from like the 50s or something? What's this?
Flat.
The Earth is flat.
We are taking flat earthers.
I found God really through the flat Earth.
That's a lie. Jaron's a true earther. He's not a flat earther. So when they hold up this cult leader like he's a representative of flat Earth, he's been decrying it for quite some time and calling himself something completely different to a flat earther, saying he's a true earther. So when they say they're taking flat earthers, are they? Witzit's an Ethereum. Jaron's a true earther. So is Witzit. They're business partners, apparently, in the true Earth secret that they're hiding in a cult-like manner behind a paywall. And who's the other one? Lisbeth. She's a flat Earth believer. Tentatively, you could call her a flat Earther. She doesn't know it's flat. She just believed it.
To Antarctica.
If the 24-hour sun was seen...
Yeah, it would be a major problem for flat Earth for sure.
Well,
Is that their evidence for a ball? If there was a 24-hour observed sun, then it's a major problem for flat Earth. Not at all. How is it a problem for flat Earth, pray tell? No, it isn't. All of the measurements came back flat, just like we said they would. We proved it with science. Earth's flat. It's not, by the way. I'm being facetious and sarcastic in case anybody doesn't know that and wants to hold me to this nonsense that science proves it because I said they'd measure it flat and they did. My prediction came true.
Was that what's it?
welcome to Antarctica.
It definitely matches the globe.
Sometimes you are wrong.
It definitely matches the globe, says Whitsitt. Sounds very much like what we say as flat earthers. Why would I say that? The globe that's created came from flat earth measurements. So when people say it matches a physical reality-based observation, it can't. It violates it in principle because the derivation of flat earth measurements that create the globe can't be real in physical terms. The calculations violate the measurements.
The final experiment is a...
Go ahead.
Didn't Whitsitt come on this show and said he constantly said it was an affirming the consequence? So if he was constantly saying that, then why did he just say it would be a problem for flat Earth? I don't understand.
I don't know. But you can understand why when people hear these little sound bites that people would want to call him a shill. It makes sense. Yeah? Because he's telling us, oh no, I would absolutely point out the affirming the consequent. Like, no, but why is the sound bites of you saying, oh, it's a problem for flat Earth? No, you, Jaron, McToon, Dave, Duffy, you all measured Earth flat. The guy with the space goggles, yeah, utilised a horizontal plane of reference for his highly precious weighing devices, didn't he? So you all need a flat Earth. So why isn't he saying that? No, he's got some nice, useful sound bites that the globeheads can be using for cope.
The Decepticon.
I'm sitting right here telling you that it's real.
I honestly believe there was no 24-hour sun. I honestly now believe there is.
Who gives a crap what Jaron Campanella believes? When the measurements of Earth are flat, you don't need to believe Jack. You can dispense with beliefs. Do you know, Jaron, for the most part, when I was actually watching him, he used to peddle the idea that he didn't adhere to any belief structures, and he disavowed anybody who did, so much so that that's the reason and namesake of his channel. Adding an ism is to take the piss out of people who've got these cults and religious beliefs and groups. So he's like, well, I can just turn myself into a group akin to a religion and call it Jaronism, like Scientism, something else that Jaron does. But the whole premise was that he wouldn't hold any beliefs. Yet what's being soundbited out for Globe Cope? I believed there wouldn't be a 24-hour sun. And what do you know there is? Okay, and...
Will Duffy, welcome back from Antarctica. You spent a lot of money to go there to show that the Earth is not flat. Did you?
Really? He went to show that the Earth is not flat? Why were all of his measurements of a flat Earth then? He failed miserably if that was what he went to do, because all of the measurements were flat.
Succeed?
We definitely succeeded, but
Sorry, you succeeded in showing the Earth wasn't flat. When you measured it flat, every single participant at TFE measured Earth flat. How is that a success in proving Earth isn't flat? If it wasn't flat, none of your measurements, when you leveled things, are valid then.
it's going to take a little time, I think, to convince everyone of that.
Whoa, I don't think you're ever going to convince me with flat Earth measurements that Earth's not flat there, Duffy.
Well, tell us about your trip a little bit.
Yeah, it was a trip of a lifetime. I feel so blessed that I was able to visit Antarctica, which is a place that most people will never have the opportunity to see with their own eyes. I was told by multiple people prior to going that it's the most beautiful place on Earth.
No, you were told that the pitch data from the plane that flew you there would prove Earth was flat. And prior to us getting hold of pitch data, we suggested that you should acquire it, given that one of the first images being presented is the journey to Antarctica, somewhere that apparently is very beautiful, so you're told? No, you were told in no uncertain terms that the pitch data for the flight would prove Earth is measured flat. Now, you told the person who was telling you that, that's Brian's logic, that they must give you a conditional acceptance that the azimuthal equidistant projection would fail before you'd even talk to him. That's what you said. So what, was Brian telling you how beautiful fucking Antarctica was? Or was he telling you pitch data would prove that the journey would prove it was flat? Because you didn't take that on board until we acquired pitch data. Then you were very keen to talk about what the Antarctic trip would or wouldn't prove prior to going there. You were very keen to talk to Brian then, weren't you, Duffy? You're a lying shit, Duffy. Yeah, that's what you are. People were telling you how beautiful it was, or were they telling you that pitch data would prove Earth's flat?
Earth, and I didn't believe them.
Just for the conciseness of this particular presentation, the pitch data we did acquire, without a doubt, proves that Earth is measured flat. And the pitch data that he would have had if Duffy took anything that people said prior to him going seriously, beyond how fucking beautiful it is, he might have actually gone and got some measurements of the journey, quote unquote, down there. What, south? South isn't down.
I thought they were just telling me that in order to get me excited and get me to go to Antarctica, but now...
No, we were telling you, me specifically, that it would be useful to acquire pitch data. That's what the rhetoric I was putting out. I told you, Duffy. Yeah, I can lie too about communications we haven't had. Duffy's never spoken to me ever in my entire life. He's not offered me a single thing. He didn't have a ticket to offer. But he's gone out to his audience and said, I offered Nathan a ticket and he turned it down. Like, you've never communicated with me, Duffy. The only communication we've ever had is me asking you for your hypothesis for your fraud that you're calling an experiment. Other people got in touch with you and asked you about pitch data, Brian specifically. But apparently you've been inundated with people telling you how beautiful it is. No, you haven't, Duffy. You're a liar.
Now that I've been there, I can safely say it's definitely
flat when you got there. We can prove that with pitch data. So that's strike one. Earth's measured flat for the journey down there. No, the journey was over a horizontal plane of reference as shown in pitch data.
the most beautiful place that I've ever seen.
That's your conclusion from the flight? There was me thinking that it was an exercise in proving things. That's quite a substantial journey that costs quite a lot of money. You'd have thought you'd have extracted some data from it. It's okay, Duffy, you don't need to. We gone and got the pitch data without your help. You were only interested in proving that the azimuthal equidistant globe projection didn't work, as opposed to proving anything with measurements and actual data from the journey like we suggested. And that was me telling you how beautiful it was, wasn't it, you liar?
For those hearing about this maybe for the first time, in simple terms, can you just briefly summarize the final experiment and why it matters?
It's not an experiment. Duffy's a fraud. An experiment is an actualization of a hypothesis. A hypothesis establishes a naturally occurring phenomena with a suppositional causal influencer. That's a hypothesis, otherwise known as scientific prediction. An experiment is the actualization of your scientific prediction where you vary your supposed cause and see if it causes the effect. That's an experiment. Duffy is a shyster and a fraud and a con man. So he's not going to explain an experiment to you. What comes out of Duffy's mouth now will be lies. It's the only communication I had. It was under a comment on my video where Duffy, I can't remember what he asked me, but what I replied was, what's the hypothesis for your experiment? Lots of his cronies came along and tried to answer with bullshit. Duffy did not. So let's see what he says now about his fraud that he's calling an experiment.
Yeah, so I pastor a small church.
Sorry, is that the answer to this experiment? He's asked you about an experiment. You've dodged the question by talking about your congregation.
Just outside of Denver, Colorado.
That's nothing to do with the experiment. He asked you about your experiment. I called you a fraud. You're talking about what you do for a living in an answer to an experimental question.
And I came up with the final experiment a little over...
So coming up with it? No. You're supposed to observe a naturally occurring phenomena first. That's step one. Coming up with what? You've put a picture of a sun and moon circling something in space. A violation of natural law if this is to be assumed to be a sky vacuum. So this is a straw man stereotyping fallacy that you came up with to represent what your opponent thinks. And that's just very disingenuous fraud. Far from being an experiment.
Over a year ago to settle this debate over the...
Sorry, you don't settle debates with experiments. Experiments establish the causal influence of a phenomena you're studying in nature. Yeah, just proving that you're a fraud there, Duffy.
Shape of the Earth, the flat Earth.
Right, the shape of the Earth is not up for debate. You measure it flat there, dickhead. What do you think the guys who are leveling their instruments and measuring elevation angles are doing? They're measuring Earth flat.
This community is alive and well. I think that the number of flat earthers in the world is growing. And I figured somebody, if they put the time and effort and financial resources into it would be able to
Into what? He's asked you what the experiment is. You've told him that you're a pastor and that you're going to settle a debate. Yeah, debates might be summarized with things like the Socratic method, semantics. Those are the things that settle debates. Yeah? This is not a debatable subject. Earth's measured flat. Like in the pitch data that you could have acquired, but chose to tell your opponents that they must concede the point in an affirming the consequent fallacy stacked up in false dichotomy before you'll even talk to them. Because you've got a fraud to peddle, haven't you? An experiment that's not got a hypothesis.
come up with something that would settle the debate, convince everybody that we do live.
Yeah, this is called a false dichotomy. That's what you've got. This is not experimental. This is not observation of phenomena. This is not acquisition of experimental validity through variation and manipulation of a causal influencer. That's not this, dickhead. This is fraud.
Live on a globe, give definitive evidence of that. And
Right, if we live on a globe, so begging the question fallacy, if we live on a globe is you assuming that you're on a globe on the one side of the false dichotomy?
that involved going to Antarctica.
No, it doesn't, because then you'd be assuming that you're going to Antarctica on the bottom of a globe, which is begging the question.
Because the flat Earth model has a completely different reality than what Antarctica really is.
Where did the flat Earth model get presented? Because what you actually did was debunk the azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric globe projection. That's not a flat Earth model. It's not even a model. It's a map. It's a globe projection. So you debunked a globe projection.
On a globe, it's this island.
Sorry, that's begging the question. So Antarctica's what, south on the bottom of a ball? No. You need to actually prove that as opposed to assume it in one half of a false dichotomy. When you're calling it an experiment, it's straight up fraud.
Continent, but on a flat Earth, it's this gigantic ice wall.
Says who? No, we object strongly to that and have done for years.
That encircles all of the.
No, we'd need to see and prove that there is actually an ice wall that is alleged when you project a globe, North Pole centric. It puts Antarctica as an ice wall on the map. That's not something I would assert ever. Not since debunking the azimuthal equidistant projection. We checked if it functionally worked as a map and it doesn't. It doesn't match the sun's positions.
The world's continents. And so we went to Antarctica to dispel this flat Earth myth.
And by the way,
Okay, well done. You debunked the globe projection, though. It wasn't a flat Earth myth. It was an azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric globe projection, Duffy. Maybe you should have looked at what you were debunking before you debunked it. So you successfully debunked the globe projection known as the Gleasons. Well done.
for those that missed it, make sure you guys check out our previous interview with Will Duffy. It's on our YouTube channel. We'll make sure we have the link below in the description.
You know, Will, I have a GIF that I'd like to show about illustrating what we're talking about here. It's got the North Pole at the center. You can
What, like a North Pole centric azimuthal equidistant projection of a globe? This is a globe projection. Did you guys not realize that? It's not only a globe projection, it's a globe projection that we'd already debunked in 2016.
see there's it was showing you that you got North America and Europe and Asia, Africa, Australia.
Yeah, it's wrong. It doesn't match where the sun's supposed to be in terms of GP positions. You could claim that the grid's correct. It's measured with latitudes. That's the elevation angle to the North Pole centric system. But there's a South Pole system that's also projected on the same map, distorting it vastly. Now, I haven't done this. It's not a flat Earth model. It's got sod all to do with flat Earth. All maps are flat. They have to be, or they wouldn't work with elevation angle measurements. Like the ones you measured in Antarctica.
Australia and South America. And
yeah, for those, you need a flat Earth, just to make that absolutely and abundantly clear. Earth must be measured flat for any map to function. That's why they're all flat, regardless of the huge distortions imposed on them when you project globes flat. The globe itself, though, is formed with the latitude system that's projected onto this map also. That is to say, azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric has the latitude grid accurately depicted.
now along the perimeter of this flat Earth, there is this white.
Sorry, is there? Where'd you get this from? Flat Earth Society? So this is a stereotyping and straw man fallacy, straight away.
Area, kind of grayish-looking area. That is the ice wall. They would call.
Is it? Says who? Who's proven that there's an ice wall? Nobody? It's a straw man.
Antarctica. It's not a continent at the South Pole. There is no
South Pole? Pole? What, like antipodal assumption? Poles? No, I'm afraid not. If you're going to describe any form of axial rotation, it'll be described in your heliocentric maths with respect to an asymptotically flat plane. So I'm pretty sure that you'll need a flat Earth for those poles. Meanwhile, south is not down.
No South Pole. It's simply
Yeah, South Pole. No. That's a contradiction in terms. South is out. Have you never seen a compass? It's not a three-dimensional projection when you talk about south. That's why the maps are all flat, by the way. So they work with things like south.
the perimeter of the Earth. And this little GIF shows the sun going around in circles, and as it goes around,
Who's putting this out there? Is this Dave Weiss's app? Because I'm not saying this. I'm a flat earther. My name's Nathan Oakley. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. What's this shit? Who puts their name next to this shit? Put your hands up. How many people we got in the server? 20-odd people in the server? Half a dozen people in the G+ panel. Who says the sun is a thing above an azimuthal equidistant or a Gleason's projection? Who's saying this? Admit it now. This guy's saying we say this. There must be a reason. I don't. One of you must be saying this. Who says this? Nobody says this. Was there a specific individual that you wanted to ascribe this to, like Dave Weiss? Because then you can debunk Dave Weiss. Not me. Not flat Earth. Because Earth's measured flat to create this system that you're trying to debunk when it's a globe projection.
different parts of the Earth are illuminated. It's noon or daytime in the Americas, and it's daytime in Asia and Australia.
No, I checked that. It's incorrect. I checked it. We tracked the sun and its position over this map. It's false. It does not work. I already checked this. So I definitely don't say this because I checked and it's wrong. So why are you holding this up as a straw man? Is it because dickheads like Dave Weiss carried on using it for money in spite of knowing it was wrong? Yeah, they're charlatans though, aren't they? They're grifters. They saw an opportunity to bleed people dry for money and they took it with a map that was wrong. Yeah, that's Dave Weiss's problem, not mine. Go and tell Dave Weiss his model's wrong in his app that he's selling for $5 a pop. Because we debunked it in 2016. This, exactly what you're showing, whether or not this happens, was shown to be false in 2016.
And notice that parts of Antarctica are illuminated from time to time.
Because of shit, the sun doesn't appear over the points on the map that it says it does, so it's wrong. We already showed it was wrong. It doesn't matter what it says it would or wouldn't do in Antarctica. It's already been debunked.
But at no point would all of Antarctica be illuminated.
Because of crap, unless you've got some straw man being burnt in false dichotomy, where a globe projection that puts Antarctica in a position that's not conducive with a physical sun that nobody's got the slightest clue what it even is placed at a local distance. I don't know what the sun is, and neither do you, dumbos.
That's key because even on this model, I think you can see the Arctic region for some times of the year will be have a 24-hour sun, but that's not going to happen in Antarctica. Now, I think there's the whole point of your expedition down there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Flat Earth.
So your whole point was to debunk an azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric globe projection. That was your whole point, that you spent thousands to debunk the AE map. I could have given you that. If I'd have known that that was the only reason you were going down there, I could have just alluded to the sun tracking that we did in 2016 and show how it was wrong already. Is that all you wanted? I could have given you that for free.
Earthers said for years, almost a decade, that there was no 24-hour sun in Antarctica because they realized that it would not be possible on a flat.
No, I went by first-hand testimony, actually. So when I specifically said there isn't one, it was because I'd had first-hand testimony that somebody had spent 18 months down there and they did not see one. Now, that's not to say that you don't ever see one. It's to say that Robert Shortman specifically, a man who spent 18 months there, not a few days, said there wasn't. Okay? Now, you say you've seen a 24-hour sun. So according to the testimony so far, I've got conflicting evidence in terms of testimony. A guy that says he didn't see a 24-hour sun in the 18 months he was down there, and you, who's been there for a few days to specifically catch it, who says there is. Okay? Well, that doesn't seem to match, but fine. Good job it's inconsequential. Doesn't make any difference to me. Maybe there is sometimes a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and that's why it's so elusive to capture. It only happens every once in 10 years, maybe. I don't know. There's not enough research in terms of what this phenomena is. But at this stage, that's all it potentially is, an observed phenomena. So we could do with establishing what caused that, couldn't we? That would inquire That would be the purview of the inquiry method known as science. That is to say, you've observed the phenomena. That's step one. Now you suppose a cause of the phenomena and formulate it into a scientific prediction, otherwise known as hypothesis. That's if your suppositional causal influencer, otherwise known as independent variable, is varied, then it will cause your phenomena to occur. Also, alongside that, you have a null. If you vary and manipulate that which you assume causes the effect, then it does not cause the effect. One or other will be proven true if you do an experiment. Not fraud. Not I'll observe a phenomena and call it experiment. No. Actually vary and manipulate that which you assume causes it and see if it does or not. That's an experiment.
Flat Earth. On the globe, both...
that's a begging the question fallacy. On the globe, you're already assuming, and the other half of the false dichotomy, that you're on a globe. So on a globe, well, you're already on a globe. You don't need to do anything else. You've already begged this question. You've already decided that you're on a globe in this supposition. So on a globe, when did you vary and manipulate a globe to see if that was the causal influencer of this? Oh, you didn't. It's just begging the question.
In the north of the Arctic.
But north is a flat Earth direction. Why is it that on a globe, you're now giving a flat Earth direction immediately? You don't have north, south, east, and west on a globe. They're flat. Why do you think the maps are all flat? Why do you think they teach Boy Scouts how to put a compass on a flat map? Is that because on a globe? No, dickhead. Immediately you're violating the principle of you begging the question fallacy. You don't have south on a globe.
Arctic Circle, and in the south of the Antarctic Circle.
Sorry, you don't have south. That's a direction on a plane. It's two-dimensional. South is not down. South is not antipodal on a globe, you're assuming. Yeah, you're begging the question.
We have what's called a 24-hour sun.
Oh, so it's an affirming the consequent fallacy. If I assume I'm on the bottom of a globe, then we have a 24-hour sun. We do have a 24-hour sun, therefore I'm on the bottom of a globe. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P. Affirming the consequent, it's a formal logical fallacy.
Which is geographic locations where the sun doesn't set for an entire 24 hours. It's up all day. And so showing them that 24-hour sun, these flat earthers that went with us, so they could see it with their own eyes. We obviously videoed the 24-hour sun as well, was kind of that final nail in the coffin.
Sorry, kind of that final nail in the coffin. No. Kind of an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy, where if P, Earth is automatically assumed to be a ball, then Q, I'll observe a 24-hour sun. 24-hour sun was observed, therefore I'm on the bottom of a ball. So it's not kind of the last nail in the coffin, it's kind of an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. I told you that personally, didn't I? I'll just make up that I told him personally. Yeah? Because he does that to me, he just makes up lies about what we've done in communication terms. Like he pretended he made an offer to me for a ticket that didn't exist. No, he didn't, he's a liar. I haven't had any conversations with Duffy about tickets that didn't really exist.
Showing that the flat earth model is...
But I'll just say I did. I told Duffy personally it's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. Personally, I told him personally. When I put it out in multiple videos, that's me telling Duffy personally.
It's just not possible.
And not only the 24-hour sun, but also the 24-hour moon, right? That's pretty significant.
Yes, the 24-hour moon is something that we also have in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere when you're far enough north and far enough south.
What, directions that are only possible to describe on a flat plane, two-dimensional in nature, not antipodal. So if your statement is to be taken as true even in fallacious terms, you're affirming a flat Earth with your affirming the consequent fallacy. If we observe a 24-hour sun in the north, that's a flat direction. And if we observe it in the south, again, a flat Earth direction. So you're affirming the consequent fallacy requires a flat Earth. Go ahead.
He cleared it all up by saying sphere, hemisphere, you know. That clears everything up.
No, it violates the directions that he's given.
We were not in Antarctica at a time where we would be able to see the 24-hour moon. There was a full moon while we were in Antarctica, but it was not visible. And it was not visible because it was behind the horizon. And so that's another flat Earth false.
Wait, what? It was visible, but it was behind the horizon. Well, begging the question again, so you're assuming that the physical obstruction of the geometric sphere edge we debunked in 2020 called the Earth curve horizon obscured the moon? No. No, you're taking elevation angles to the moon as well. but it's there and visible and full, but it's not there because it's behind an assumed to be geometric sphere edge debunked by the Black Swan. Definitely not, Duffy.
But other people who have spent a lot more time in Antarctica than myself.
Trust me, bro. Other people you were pleading to, Robert Shortman said there was no 24-hour sun then. Okay, other people say there wasn't a 24-hour sun, so what do we do now? It's got to be there all the time for everybody to observe. There should never, ever be a circumstance where there isn't a 24-hour sun in the summer of Antarctica, if you're going to assume that you're on the bottom of a ball. Now, that only serves to affirm the consequent. That's what I've just pointed out. It's a fallacious set of reasoning where you assume your outcome. I assume I'm on the bottom of a ball, and when I observe chickens down there, it means that I'm on the bottom of a ball. I did observe chickens down there, therefore I'm on the bottom of a ball.
Have captured the 24-hour moon on video, and we released some of their videos on the Final Experiment YouTube channel as well.
Not an experiment. Final Experiment YouTube channel now. No, you're a fraud, Duffy. It's not an experiment. Observing a moon for 24 hours or a sun for 24 hours in the north or in the south only affirms that we're on a flat plane because the direction used to describe where you are is flat.
Well,
yeah, I noticed on your YouTube.
Go ahead. Oh, was it them?
Channel, you have a playlist of some of the final experiments. You're slowly releasing them, and you just released one just the other day, right? In terms of Anthony, that released his video of the 24-hour moon, which I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's
Right, so that's an observation. That's not an experiment. More fraud being peddled by Duffy. Good. Somebody's trying to get a word in there. Sure, I'm seeing the line from Discord bounce.
People who spend a lot of time in Antarctica, and so they get to capture these really unique celestial events and southern lights and just some beautiful things. And so we released Anthony Powell's video of the 24-hour moon, and also Robert Schwartz has videos of the 24-hour moon directly at the geographic South Pole, which...
But geographic South Pole, you'll need a flat Earth to describe planes of reference for axial rotation about what you're calling a pole. It's just a fancy way of dressing up their antipodal assumption. That's all it is.
Also doesn't exist on a flat Earth.
What do you mean doesn't exist on a flat Earth? You've just described how you've reached the south or reached the north. Those are flat directions. So if I describe how something flat can occur, it debunks a flat Earth. No, it doesn't.
Mind that the 24-hour moon occurs during winter. I don't think you want to be in Antarctica in the wintertime. A few people have braved it, wintering over, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's a
Who gives a crap? What does this prove? About as much as 24-hour sun does.
lot worse than in the summer. The northern hemisphere 24-hour moon is a lot easier to capture. You can get to civilized parts of the country, such as in Scandinavia or in Alaska during the winter. It's not as bad as it would be in Antarctica.
Yeah, so the flat earthers that were with us, and again, we had 4 flat earthers go with us.
No, he didn't. Whitsit's not a flat earther. He's an Ethereum. Jaron's a true earther. Lisbeth's a flat earth believer. Who's the 4th?
They saw this 24-hour sun with their own eyes. They experienced it. They were getting sunburned. They had a firsthand experience. So they have 0 doubts about.
Okay, 0 doubts that there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Okay, and?
About this 24-hour sun. As to their position on whether or not we live on a globe or we live on a flat earth, I expect at least half of them, so 2 of them, to come over.
Hold on, wasn't this supposed to be the purpose in going down there? It would settle the debate. So even after going down there and achieving what you hoped you would achieve, you're saying only 50% of the people who actually fucking saw it will change? That's utterly useless! A 50% conversion rate from the people who actually went with you when your sole objection was to end the debate. Oh yeah, I got 50% conversion rate from the people who had 40 grand spent on them to go down and actually see it. They saw it and didn't convert. Oh, well, that was absolutely amazing. I expect the entire world to follow suit about 50% of the time. If your garbage affirming the consequent actually proved the damn thing.
Over to the globe side at some point, just based on conversations that were had. The other...
I didn't do a call to action. Let's do it. I should really have done this at the beginning. Please let Answers in Genesis know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that alludes to the fact that we are covering their video as we speak. So please do actually do this. If you are in the live stream chat, do click on the link that's whizzing its way by for you now. There's 136 people watching, so I do expect at least a few of you to actually toddle along to Answers in Genesis with a polite remark that alludes that @ Nathan Oakley 1980, all one word, sent me because we responded to your video interview with Will Duffy. So just let him know. Just give him a polite comment. And yeah, I'm not saying it for my health. Hence, do actually do this. And if you're watching after the fact, hopefully you can click on the repeated live stream that's archived and see that link going by and do the same. And just let Answers in Genesis know with a polite comment that won't immediately get removed by the YouTube algorithmic bots or the owner of the channel themselves, but allude to the fact that I sent them to you, or sent you to them, I should say. Yeah, please
Would a polite comment be, are you still on lunch?
On lunch? What does that mean?
Well, when Adam had him cornered, he said he had to go to lunch. I was just wondering if he's still on lunch, because he never came back in.
Oh, this guy.
That was it.
What's his name?
Faulkner.
Faulkner, yeah, we've had Faulkner on the ropes a couple of times. Here.
Or two, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, this was very, very powerful. Now, the flat Earth community as a
very powerful 50% of the time for someone who actually made the observation there and then in person with their own eyes. There's a 50% chance it won't work at all and did nothing to them. Maybe. You'll assess if it's 50% later, will you? Maybe 50%, you said. I think maybe 50%. You'd have thought that you'd have got that immediately, right? No, Earth's not flat because I now assume I travelled to the bottom of a ball when I got here. Did any of them do that, Duffy? Did any of them affirm the consequent in that way? You seem very unsure. You seem unsure given that you spent several £100,000 on getting these people down there to get a 50% conversion rate when you achieve what you hoped you would achieve. That sounds awful.
Yeah, they wanted it to be more powerful, right? It was supposed to be, because all the flat earthers were supposed to have hooked on to this straw man crap model map years ago. The problem is us. The problem are the flat earthers that say this doesn't matter because you're not even talking about the earth itself, you're talking about an observation in the sky. It doesn't matter. So that's why we're the dangerous ones. This whole little stupid social experiment. That's what it is. It's not a real experiment. Right?
Yeah, we're a big problem. Like I said, but this isn't for us. I said that in the pre-show. Shout out to Rory Cooper, my perspective. This is for the Globers. I kind of hinted at it a few times. It's for their side of the argument, the Globe side, to get a bit of cope out of this. Look how wrong flat earthers are. So it's at our expense, but it's not for us. TFE was never for us.
a whole, they have no idea what to do with this. They are, in my opinion,
no idea what to do with it. Sorry, anytime anybody comes and mentions TFE in my comments, I go straight to my McToon measured Earth flat, Brian's Logic versus McToon video, and I just post that to them. They come along, oh, it's all over, game over, 24-hour sun in Antarctica, game over, flat Earth, ha ha ha. Post the link to McToon versus Brian. McToon measures Earth flat again, lol. What are you going to do? What did you do with the data you acquired? Oh, you measured it on a flat plane. Like we predicted, because science proved Earth's flat down in Antarctica. We always predicted they'd measure it flat there. And our predictions came true. Therefore, because we had predictions, this is scientifically validated to be a flat Earth evidence. By their standards, not ours. We're not dickheads. We know what science actually is.
Completely imploding. I was on a panel the other day that I joined, and they all disagreed with each other as to the final experiment. They couldn't make up their mind whether there's a 24-hour sun or not, whether...
I'll do whatever you like. If you come here, Duffy, doors are open. This is an open door policy here. Anybody can join at any moment. There's a couple of exceptions, literally 2 or 3 exceptions, where egregious shitbag liars get banned. Or people like Brenda, transgender Brenda, who said I was a child abuser. Other people have been doing that more and more and more. As a result of Duffy the fraud, who also went on video and said that he'd watched me abuse my child because he's a lying shit scumbag, stain on humanity. Lying bastard. Yeah, gotta lie to Glurf. What about us, Duffy? If you address it, I'll accept there's a 24-hour sun if that's what you want me to do. I mean, if someone else comes tomorrow and tells me it's all fake and presents their evidence, I can accept that for the sake of debate as well, because this is utterly inconsequential to me. Like when you first brought it up and I said, what's your hypothesis? And you didn't have one. Then I started calling you a fraud. And what did you do in response to that? Address it? No, you called me a child abuser, didn't you, Duffy? Yeah, very telling.
We were really in Antarctica or not, whether the final...
Oh, I'll accept that too, Duffy. You need acceptance from Flirths that you were in Antarctica and that you observed 24 hours. So no, I'll give you all of those concessions if you want them. And then we'll talk about the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy that you'd need to employ to have this as a globe evidence. Or the straw man azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric globe projection that you apparently debunked to get a 50% conversion rate maybe back to the glurf from the people who actually observed the 24 hours. And they definitely saw it. Maybe half of them will convert. Maybe. Worth every dime.
Experiment was staged and faked.
Not an experiment. You're just a fraud.
Or not. So right now they are all...
Now, like I say, I'll accept the premise of what I saw with my own eyes on a video at face value. Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that if that's what you need from a flurf. Anybody in this room find it objectionable if I was to agree with Duffy if he was in front of me now and go, yeah, okay, I'll accept there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, no worries. In spite of being told the complete opposite by a person who spent 18 months there, I'm still willing to accept it in spite of the contradictory evidence I've been presented by now two different parties at two different times. But that's fine, I'll accept that that's what you saw. Next. What of it? Oh, well, maybe you're going to say that my experimental data... No, it's not an experiment, Duffy. That's the next thing out of your mouth to these guys. These alleged to be Christians that you're lying to about it being an experiment. You'd think this guy would understand that, but clearly not.
All over the map, and that shouldn't be a surprise to me based on what they've done with space travel and the moon landings and the ISS, but I really didn't see that coming with having 4 flat earthers.
Right, who's Jonathan? I don't know who Jonathan is. Who's Jonathan? Anyway, Austin, what, True Earth lying shit stain? No, we've been proving Whitsit's a liar for many, many years. Lisbeth, when addressed in regards to Flat Earth, she made it pretty clear that she had a Flat Earth belief. Jaron has been standing in opposition and suggesting that we live on a big ball, and it's proven by measuring Home Depots. So he's definitely not Flat Earth. Other than Jonathan, who I'm not particularly aware of. Who is he? I don't know. But no, you definitely haven't got 4 Flat Earthers down there. Down there's an antipodal assumption.
Representatives go to Antarctica.
By the way,
I find it funny that he's trying to point out, oh, look, the flat earthers are all over the place, they're attacking each other and blah, 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 blah. Okay. You didn't realize that in this discussion, or what y'all thought was a debate, you Globers have been doing this the entire time. This is why we even call you guys anti-flat earth. Why? Because you don't even go by your own rhetoric to defend this globe nonsense. So maybe take a look at yourself, Duffy, before you want to talk about somebody else. Oh, wait, I forgot. Lying is cool with this guy. My bad.
Yeah, start with someone like Simon Dan. I mean, are my reference frames ruined or what?
And tell them, hey, we were there, we saw a 24-hour sun.
Meet Teddy, our picky eater. At Tails.com, dog food is never average. We transform even the...
And so what was going on?
Are you saying wrong to the dog food advert?
no, I said, by the way, if anybody cares, Jaron wrote his second letter. I posted it in Message B. Not that it matters.
Oh, maybe we'll.
But
I don't think it really matters.
On in your minds, like, what were your initial thoughts when you saw the participants witness the 24-hour sun? Like, were the reactions as expected?
Like, what did you measure? Give us some evidence. No. What did you feel when you saw which one of the 50% that might convert see a 24-hour sun? What relevance does this have precisely? Who gives a crap? Did you see Whitsit turn into a giant strawberry when he watched it? What? Who cares?
Not really. I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, and I will tell you, they definitely were hoping and expecting internally to see the sun set. As the day progressed, the first day that we were there, as the hours ticked on, you could totally tell that they were realizing this sun is definitely not going to set. And when you have something challenge your paradigm, especially something...
What, like pitch data, elevation angle measurements, the ones that you acquired down there when you assumed it was antipodal, the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. When this sort of stuff's presented to you, Duffy, what do you do with it? You ignore it all and plow on with your false dichotomy. One that masks the fact that you're just begging the question of being on the bottom of a ball when every measurement you took was flat. That's what you'll do, Duffy.
That has such a significant part of their identity.
Not really. Measuring Earth flat and this straw man that you're holding up like all of us adhere to this bullshit that Jaron agreed immediately with you to get a free ticket, he would burn because that's the conditional acceptance you demanded of Brian. So one can only assume you demanded it of Jaron and he conceded he'd give it you. So that your successful burning of a straw man would work in false dichotomy. Exactly on screen now, that's what this is, a false dichotomy.
What did he say? A significant part of their what?
Paradigm.
Okay, if that was the case, then why wasn't it a housekeeping question? I wonder.
Yeah, it's not even relevant to us. Otherwise, like you say, we've been asking it as an identified contentious point of debate that constantly comes up on Flat Earth Debate for us to have it as a housekeeping question when it's overcome.
And who they are and their livelihoods and just their circle of friends, that's not something that is going to be easy to experience. And so we were very humble on the Globe side. We weren't rubbing it in their faces or anything like that. We were just kind of letting them.
How were you? Really? I can speak from first-hand personal experience and call you a liar, Duffy. You weren't rubbing it in our faces. You see, there was me thinking I got a call from one of the participants on the Globe side called McToon. And when I asked McToon about the measurements of a flat Earth that he was making at the time, literally at the time that he was speaking to me, he hung up because he didn't get to rub my face in it, telling me there was a 24-hour sun. I was like, oh yeah, that's nice. What about the flat Earth measurements, Duffy? Keep calling Toon Duffy. What about the flat Earth measurements, McToon? He put the phone down on me, having failed to rub my face in it, and started screaming at Dave McKeegan about where guns were. Because he dug out a comment from 9 years ago, prior to speaking to somebody who'd actually attended in Antarctica and not observed a 24-hour sun, that there wasn't a 24-hour sun 9 years ago. I'd suggested that you'd be stopped, like you'd be stopped going anywhere if you don't have permission. But there we go. That's what he leant into when screaming at Dave McKeegan into the snow, having put the phone down on me, having failed to rub my nose in it. Because this is inconsequential when Earth's measured flat. And yeah, he absolutely lost his shit over it. Now, I'm pretty sure you'd have heard him, Duffy. You'd have been right next to him when it happened. Did you forget or not hear him shouting, "Where are the guns, Nathan? Where are the guns?" Did you not hear that, Duffy? Or are you just a lying shit stain? I'm pretty sure you're a lying shit stain because I'm pretty sure anybody who was within 3 miles of McToon screaming my name, having just been asked about the flat Earth measurements he made. And what do you know, when they got published, they were indeed exactly as predicted. This is scientific proof Earth's flat, by the way. Because as predicted, they measured Earth flat down there. So that's scientific proof by their own standards. Right? I had a hypothesis. My hypothesis was they'll go down to Antarctica, assume they're on the bottom of a ball, and then measure it flat. And what do you know? My scientific prediction was proven true. They assumed they went to the bottom of a ball, and then they measured Earth flat. And when I pointed it out, I got the phone hung up on me. And then McToon screaming, "Where are the guns?" into the Antarctic snow. But what was that, Duffy, you lying shit? They weren't trying to rub flat earthers' noses in it. Yeah, they were. Duffy was. And McKeegan was watching and filming, wasn't he? So that's pretty much half of the Globers that were definitely trying to rub flat earthers' noses in it. It's just 2 of them, 50% of them failed. I don't know if they'll convert based on their own flat earth measurements or not. I haven't asked, I couldn't care less. This isn't very important to me, I already know Earth's flat. Go on, whoever had the mic open with your indicator running. No.
Them take it in and letting them process it.
I believe one of the participants, Jaron, he admitted he was wrong after seeing the 24-hour sun, although he still didn't give up his flat earth belief.
Why not? Surely for 40k, you'd have absolutely expected him to. You had a good basis in logic that would have forced him to. He'd be an idiot to relinquish the absolutely sound and without question proving globe Earth logic that was presented to him. How could he possibly be ambiguous about this? Based on the, 150, 200 grand that it cost? and the only purpose was to definitively end the argument, yet even after actually seeing it with his own eyes, you're not 100% sure that he's going to relinquish a flat Earth? How could he not? Could it be because it's not grounded in any sort of actual logic? It's an affirming the consequent fallacy, masking a false dichotomy fallacy, like we said from the moment it came out and you failed to give us a hypothesis for your fraud, Duffy. It seems a bit unreasonable that anybody should now not think they're on a ball based on you having spent such a lot of money, because that's what gets people onto a ball, right? Seeing a 24-hour sun, when they affirm the consequent and automatically assume that they've gone to the bottom of a ball.
I know, but I mean, how big of a moment was that for you when you saw that? And what's the latest status on his beliefs right now?
I had no doubts about the 24-hour
status on Jaron's beliefs. You're keeping tabs on Jaron and his beliefs. According to Jaron himself, he doesn't hold beliefs. Yeah, that was the whole rhetoric from Jaronism when he first started his channel. Obviously, that turned out to be lies, and he's prepared to bring down an entire community based on what he believed he would see down there, even though he allegedly doesn't hold beliefs. But he believed he wouldn't see it, and he did, so he was wrong, meaning nothing other than what Jaron believes. Earth's measured flat, dumbos. Does it matter what Jaron believes? He's one man. The measurements of Earth that your guys and you, Duffy, took down there were flat. You had to level your tool to the equatorial plane. Remember? Yeah? Yeah, that was you leveling your tool to an equatorial flat plane, though, wasn't it? That proves Earth's measured flat.
our son. So it was just a matter of getting there, waiting until it was midnight, doing that live stream.
Just a matter of getting there? No. That was part of the cost and expense of doing this. The journey. When we pointed out that it was fraud and not an experiment, you said we could, not us, it's your fraud, not ours, call it the final expedition. You know, like try and mask the fraud with doublespeak about it being an expedition. Well, I'd want the data from the expedition. That's what you told your audiences in an address to us calling you out for fraud. So if the expedition is part of the experiment, it isn't, it's fraud. I'd want the data from the expedition. That's the trip. So give us the pitch data. Oh, we already got some, Duffy. It proved Earth's measured flat. But what did it prove for you and your audience? That it was very beautiful, like everyone was saying? No. That's definitely not what we were saying. We were saying that the elevation data, pitch data, would prove Earth is measured flat. And it, sure enough, did prove exactly that. You were keen to talk to Brian about that after the fact, weren't you, Duffy? But no, it's just about how beautiful it was when it comes to the actual expedition. Right, Duffy? Fraud? Go on, someone from Discord's definitely got their mic open. Flat Arthur. Flat Arthur. Flat Arthur.
Stream. I let the flat earthers say whatever they wanted on that live stream. I just said, hey guys, we're going to go live.
Why would you have to point out that? That's suspicious. I didn't have any suspicions that you had told them what to say until this moment. I did point out that they all pretty much said the same thing like they were reading off a script, but now you're disclaiming that they could say whatever they wanted. That's interesting.
Very.
Given that you didn't need to disclaim that, there was no suspicion that you had, why would you disclaim that you hadn't? And why would it seem like all of them said the same thing? And it coincidentally had one of the elements that you've just said about how beautiful the journey in was. Almost like you're on that script too, that you're saying that they could say anything they liked. Now I doubt that they could. Now I'm almost certain they were all scripted by you in terms of what they must say at certain points. Because you've just said it. The journey in was beautiful. The journey in proved it was flat if you'd used some measurements for it. Isn't that what you spent all the money on?
People want to hear from you, say whatever you want. So they
Earth's measured flat with pitch data. The journey in proved Earth is flat. South is flat.
chose their own words. But yes, he has been, in my opinion, the most honest about.
Really? Honest? Jaron doesn't believe in beliefs. His whole channel's based on there not being any beliefs that he would hold, but he believed there wouldn't be a 24-hour sun. Jaron's also said he doesn't believe science proves anything, but he's travelled down, by antipodal assumption, to Antarctica to take part in an experiment. Jaron's a bullshitter. Just a flat-out liar.
About what he saw and the results, as you mentioned.
He's honest about what he saw. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, trust me, bro. So why? Would it matter if I did trust him? Okay, I trust Jaron implicitly. He saw a 24-hour sun. Why is he still a flat earther again? You didn't seem to go through that. I'd have thought you'd have cemented the absolute stone-cold logic that made him go back to the globe based on this observation. You haven't done that. But you'll keep us updated on whether or not the 50% you think might turn to the globe do or not. You'll keep us updated, Duffy. Well done. Money well spent on the expedition/fraud experiment. So the expedition, can we have the pitch data from that? Because ours is ancillary. It's not actually the data from the trip you took and spent all the money on. You seem to be withholding that like a charlatan fraud. You're withholding the pitch data from your trip, and we don't need it. We've got an official source, the NTSB. They're dealing with death. It's pretty serious stuff when they investigate a black box and what it shows about how Earth is measured flat. They're definitely not going to be any higher standards in terms of this data when we prove Earth's measured flat with pitch data. NTSB is about the gold standard. Your data, you could just be a bullshitting liar like we've proven multiple times when you present something from your black box. So I'll just trust that all black box data, as per the NTSB information, proves without a shadow of a doubt that Earth's being measured flat. Because it is. Detailing pitch and elevation. Go ahead.
Well, Brian was trying to avoid the whole trip when he contacted Duffy and asked for the pitch data. You wouldn't even need to go to Antarctica.
Correct. I tried to associate it with it, saying, well, why don't you approach Duffy to say, get pitch data for that purpose? And Brian's like, no, I don't want Antarctic pitch data. I mean, if we got that, great. I just want any pitch data, because at the time we didn't have any. Now, we knew by logical inference what it must be, it has to be, in terms of what the plane's doing. We just didn't have it in black and white on a piece of paper from an official source. Now we do. But you're right, Brian didn't want it from Duffy. He just said, what about pitch data? Not your pitch data you haven't got yet. At the time, he was like, any pitch data. Brian was of the opinion that you could save him the money. Now, I could have saved him the money if he'd gone and looked at tracking the sun. Jaron already knew about it, even though he lied and said that flat earthers were making stuff up when it was put to him that he knew. And then he detailed how wrong it was shown to be. So Jaron already knew that this map was bunk. So Jaron's definitely a disingenuous scumbag. There's no two ways about this.
Admitted on camera that he was wrong about the 24-hour sun.
Really? But he already knew that map was wrong. He admitted that literally about 3 or 4 days ago to one of my subscribers who went in to Jaron's stream and put it to him. Now, initially, Jaron lied and said that the guy was just making stuff up. But then Jaron affirmed that, oh, it's only an hour out because of time zones or something along those lines. He justified his knowledge in the fact that it was shown to be wrong. So, yeah, so what you're saying, Jaron showed that he was wrong? Why did he believe in something that had already shown to be wrong to begin with? Unless he's a lying shitbag.
And I think he's still processing everything, but...
Why? Surely you've got some stone-cold logic to associate with this 24-hour sun to put him on the globe permanently. No, you haven't. You've just got an affirming the consequent fallacy.
I would be shocked if he stays in the flat Earth community.
Well, shouldn't you know already? This should be a done deal, right? That was the whole point. Maybe 50% will turn their back on flat Earth. He'll keep us updated. Wow, great logic that you must have put to him that he could have only accepted. It isn't. It never was. We were pointing out before they went down there by antipodal assumption.
After this entire experience.
And for those that are wondering, you had a whole live stream. Can you point people to that live stream if they want to watch some of those reactions?
Yeah, so our channel is on YouTube. It's called The Final Experiment. And if you go to watch, it was the side of the world. Think about a flat disc over around, Australia, but it was just boom, right there with us. And so, yeah, it was a pretty special time.
So in the live stream, when you're watching, there's so many different tripods and cameras that are set up. Can you explain?
Set up? How were they set up? Were they leveled to the equatorial plane? Yeah, they were. Yeah, they proved Earth's measured flat when they set these tools up. Let's see if we brush past that immediately.
A little bit more on why that is?
Yes, that was very, very important in preparing for this because we have years of experience watching the types of arguments that flat earthers make.
You asked about the equipment and how it was set up. And your answer is to say you assessed people who aren't there and put a picture of Dave up. So has Dave got anything to do with the equipment that you set up and leveled to the equatorial plane? No, Dave has got nothing to do with the equipment being set up and leveled to a plane. The equatorial plane. The plane that was also used to measure elevation angles from McToon when he measured Earth flat down in Antarctica by Antarctica's antipodal assumption. No, the violation of the antipodal assumption when you say you go down there is demonstrated by the measurements that you presented and the setup of the tools that you used that were leveled to the equatorial plane.
Make. And so we looked at all of those arguments and we said, we want to make sure that they won't make those arguments for.
But this is being a response to the question about your tools that you used down there that you saw in the pictures to talk about how you don't want arguments to come up again. Doesn't sound like you're explaining how the tools worked. I am. Why would it be that me, the flat earther's explaining how these tools function, like equatorial mounts? Yeah, they're leveled to the equatorial plane. Earth must be flat for them to function. So he's going to talk about people.
Our experiment in our time.
No, it wasn't an experiment, Duffy. It's a fraud. When we point that out to you, you said, oh, well, you can call it an expedition, but you're not gathering any data from the expedition, and now you're dodging the question about the tools.
In Antarctica. So all of these tripods and cameras and equipment that you see in the background of these videos, we had about 10 cameras.
Yeah, we can see them. They're all leveled to the equatorial plane, though, proving Earth is flat.
All tracking the sun and recording our surroundings. We had multiple 360-degree cameras, which was
with respect to a plane that they're leveled to. When are you going to mention that?
Really important. One common flat Earth claim is that
not a single suggestion of how these tools operate yet, or what the tools are. Notice that? Charlatan. Yeah, just hiding it behind a curtain. What, the flat Earth prerequisites that they all need? Is that behind the curtain, Duffy? Is this nice and out in the open, right?
NASA will only show...
So why are we now talking about NASA? Get as far away from possible as you can from the equatorial plane and the level Earth it's proving by way of measurements. Just avoid that at all costs, right? Get on the moon. Now, you see this, right? This guy is in a suit holding in the gas, according to this story. Okay. And this area is 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, according to the story. Okay. So in order for him to breathe, he needs to keep the gas inside a container. Now let's imagine that just off screen, we've got a bullshit ball Earth in the same black sky vacuum with clouds on it that don't disperse into the 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum. Yeah, that's a straight up violation of a law of nature known as the second law of thermodynamics, isn't it? So when you go to this clearly set on a stage with a backdrop, fake footage from a place that isn't real, I'll just point out the second law of thermodynamics violation. Sky vacuum that is alleged to be the black area in a place that isn't real. The curtain, that's a backdrop, isn't really that relevant. The place that it's claimed to be is fake. You can't have high pressure gas we breathe here on Earth next to a vacuum. Like they've had to maintain in the story with this guy in a pressurized suit. Yeah, Earth doesn't have any containment around it in this narrative. So we'd all be dead. We'd have never developed high pressure gas to breathe.
Show one side of a camera because they have a set behind them and a stage with...
Yeah, they do. That's what I studied, Duffy. What did you do? You spent your time talking to a congregation, a man of God. Really? I studied theatre. I painted backdrops. This is a backdrop. It's painted.
Lights. So we wanted to make sure we give people 360-degree videos. We also
don't care. I'll accept at face value what you tell me about a 24-hour sun. Doesn't make any difference. As soon as the measurements come in, you'll prove a flat Earth. He just asked you about the tools. You'd think, given that they're globe-proving tools, you'd talk about how they function. Nah, you'll talk about the moon. Yeah, you'll be needing a flat Earth for those tools.
Also had cameras with solar filters on them.
So what about how they were mounted? What about this? What's all this? Yeah, how does this work? Oh, it's leveled to a plane.
Taking pictures of the sun, specifically the sunspots, and one of those cameras was actually on an equatorial mount.
What's that? An equatorial mount? That's a plane. So you're proving Earth's flat.
Tracking the sun through the...
On a plane. An equatorial mount is leveled to a plane, not a sphere. The sphere would be the description of the perspective view wrapped around the equatorial plane in a mathematical description with the celestial sphere wrapped around you on a plane. So you're proving Earth's flat then. Nice that you eventually mentioned it, but this is a flat Earth prerequisite, Duffy. You'll need an equatorial plane for that.
The sky. So our goal was to make sure we covered out all of our bases
You measured Earth flat, Duffy. The bases have just been covered with how you measured Earth as a plane for this tool to function.
Obtain as much data as we possibly could.
What, like the flat Earth elevation angle measurements that Duffy presented to Brian? They proved Earth's measured flat, Duffy, their angles. They weren't curved lines meeting at a vertex. The prerequisite was that the ground for the shadows for the angles, elevation angles, were on a flat Earth. They were.
To head off these types of arguments that the flat Earth...
What arguments? That you're measuring Earth flat with an angle? That's not an argument, that's a statement of fact, Duffy. That's why you're not here. It's an open door policy. We're the most critical of you. We're calling you a fraud. Yeah? What have you got? To call me a child abuser? No, I'm not. You won't prove that. You've got little sounds from a video from about 6 years ago. I've got you being a fraud when you claim experiment. These are the standards we lay down. You can't do anything about what we actually claim when we say you're a fraud. We prove it when you say experiment. I can just go to clips of you saying, oh, well, if you object to it being an experiment because it isn't, you can call it an expedition. Yeah, that just proves by your own tongue that you're a fraud, though, doesn't it, Duffy? Meanwhile, you are measuring Earth flat. So dispensing with arguments when it's a demonstrable fact that you are measuring Earth flat and it's incontestable, they're angles. Did you think that they were curved lines?
Earthers make, but flat earthers love to jump the gun. They love to come up with theories before they've researched it.
You wouldn't know what a theory is. A theory comes after you provide experimental validity. Step 1, observe a phenomena. Step 2, suppose a cause and formulate a hypothesis. That's a scientific prediction with an independent and dependent variable. Alongside it, ipso facto, you have a null, zero difference result. Both can't stand true. You can't you can't cause and not cause something to happen at the same time. That's a violation of the law of non-contradiction. Therefore, upon experimentation, that's variation of your supposed cause. You either validate, that's prove, that your causal influencer did cause the effect you were studying at step 1, or did not cause the phenomena that you observed at step 1. Once you prove you have got a valid and proven causal influencer for the effect you are observing at step 1, that's to say you know what caused the effect, then you can form theory. Duffy's a fraud. Saying that flat earthers have got theories, well, if they're saying they've got theories, they're frauds also, because they haven't. It's a category error. Earth shape is geometry. Science elucidates the cause of an effect observed in nature. Category error and stereotyping fallacy, also fraud by Duffy.
They like to make bold statements before they ask questions of the participants. And
what, bold statements like you'll be measuring Earth flat with an elevation angle? Yeah, I do. It's because it's a fact. Earth is measured flat.
so they've made all of the wild, crazy conspiracies that we...
Really? Is it a crazy conspiracy that Duffy measured elevation angles, Toon measured elevation angles, and everybody down in Antarctica levelled their tools to a plane that he just detailed? The equatorial plane? No, these are all facts, Duffy. Meanwhile, what have you got? Maybe 50% of the flurfs might change sides. You'll keep us posted. That's what you've got. I'm using every measurement you ever presented to us in this presentation right here, right now, as being flat earth proof.
We've all heard before, prior to us even releasing all of this footage and data.
Before you, affirmed the consequent that you'd be on the bottom of a ball before you even went? Yeah, we were debunking you before you got there. We got a few concessions out of you too, didn't we, Duffy? Final expedition? Yeah, the final fraud.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely going to put a little bit of egg on their face over time.
Really? Egg on my face when Toon measures Earth flat and you level your tools to the equatorial plane? Definitely not, Duffy. It makes you look like an utter clown and a fraud. Doesn't leave any egg on my face. Quite the contrary.
And before we get to some of those objections, I just want to know, the flat earthers that went with you on the trip, do they still believe in the ice wall?
Why are you so obsessed with people's beliefs? This is the second time he's done it. Who gives a shiny shite what they believe? Earth is measured flat. Now, you're so dumb that you don't recognise the man that's talking to you has just told you that multiple times. With his equatorial mount, did you know what that meant? No. But what do the guys believe? I don't care what they believe. I got measurements to back what I say as fact. I got Duffy's measurements of a flat Earth to back what I say. Do you care what I believe? Who cares?
I don't think so. Let me tell you why. We flew from the southern tip of South America to get to Antarctica. And so
you flew over a flat plane then? South is descriptions of a flat plane on a flat map. It's a two-dimensional directionality. And you're going to tell me that what proves that they will change from flat to glurf when they flew over a flat plane? Definitely not. Maybe tell us how beautiful it is and how you didn't get them to be scripted.
we were able to look out the window the entire time. And this was filmed by multiple participants.
And if I film out of a window of a plane, Earth's a globe, what about having some measurable data? Oh, we've already got it, Duffy. It's okay, don't need to. NTSB's much better than you. Earth's measured flat with flights. We fly over a flat plane, nose up with respect to horizontal. The pitch data proves it. We've been saying it for years, but now we've got black and white pitch data to prove it beyond all certitude.
The entire flight was filmed out the window. And so you see yourself leaving Chile because there's islands down there. Then you cross.
Sorry, down there. Islands down there. What, on the bottom of a ball by antipodal assumption, Duffy? Oh, very telling. No, mate, you're talking about flying south. That's not down. Are you an idiot? Do you not understand the words that you're using? The guys on your panel are obviously too dumb to catch this. But we're not, Duffy. Have you ever come and talked to us? You alleged you offered me a ticket that I declined, you lying shyster, fraudster. Didn't you, Duffy? No, you didn't. I noticed, I hadn't thought of this, one of my subscribers did. They said that they had approached you to ask for the communication between you and I, and you didn't offer it them. Yes, because there isn't any, is the Duffy, you lying shit stain? Why didn't I think of that? Thank you, whoever that subscriber was that approached Duffy and says, can I see your communication between yourself and Nathan, please? Yeah? Where is it? Yeah, there isn't any. Duffy's a liar. Meanwhile, he's saying there's islands down there. What? Down as in south? South's not down. That's your affirming the consequent, getting the better of you there, Duffy. Your antipodal assumption, where you assume that when you're in the southern hemisphere, that has something to do with being antipodal beyond the mapping systems that were measured flat. They're not. You're not antipodal. The flight data proves it. Tell us how beautiful it is, Duffy.
Ocean, and then we should get to this ice wall if the flat Earth model is true, which it's not, and there was no ice wall. I have...
Or which flat Earth model, you lying shyster? You mean the azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric globe projection? That's not a flat Earth model, it's a map. It's a globe projection. So according to the globe projection known as the Gleasons. Okay.
I've not released this yet, but it's a slow transition where the waters start to freeze over. There is no
water, what, like has an axiomatic principle of level inherent within it? You keep detailing things that are flat Earth prerequisites. You're showing pictures of perfect reflections. Only attainable if Earth is a flat plane.
No ice wall. As you get further south and as it gets...
South is a flat Earth direction?
Colder, there's more and more ice buildup.
Fascinating. What? If ice, then globe?
And so this ice wall myth comes from flat earthers taking pictures of breakage off of this ice buildup, and they...
This ice wall. I mean, I don't in any way assert that there's a wall like this all the way around the known territories. I do know the known territories were measured and mapped and charted flat. And the maps that were flat before the expansion of the known territories into the new worlds were also flat. And the systems that are used to find the new territories, including but not limited to Antarctica, were all flat. So when someone says ice wall, I know they mean ring of ice based on a Gleason's map that's been debunked, and I object strongly to them. But this definitely looks like a wall to me. It's a giant frickin' wall of ice.
They will just show you one little part and claim that that's a gigantic ice wall around...
It is.
...on the Earth, when that's...
It is.
...now demonstrably false. We've got...
Sorry, what? Demonstrably false because you showed a picture of it. You know, people say elephants are real. They've got this stupid notion of elephants with trunks. Puts a picture of elephant on screen. And obviously that's demonstrably false.
Got pictures and video to show...
showing ice walls. Yeah, you know, I won't disagree when someone actually puts a picture of an ice wall up. Because there it is. my objection is to suggest that it's the azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric globe projection, where it takes what is on the bottom of a ball in a globe and projects it on the outside ring of what is now known as the Gleason's or AE map. Also accurately described as a globe projection that you've tried to debunk as though it's a flat Earth model.
Prove that.
And why? Because several flat Earth charlatans who already knew that model didn't work wanted to suggest that flat Earth would actually hinge on whether or not that globe projection failed in Antarctica or not.
All of the professing Christian flat earthers treated you through this whole thing before, during, and after.
Who gives a shit? Earth's measured flat. I don't care how he's been treated by other Christians.
I have been treated horrible.
I don't care. It makes no difference how you're treated. Do you think I'm appealing to 10 years of abuse from people who are like you, scumbags and liars? No, I'm not. Am I appealing to how I've been treated in the pre-show where a guy was lying through his back teeth 10 times to obfuscate the flat Earth elevation angle measurement definition that he wanted to go to a forum to cite? No, I'm not citing those things. I don't need to when I've got a flat Earth measurement to demonstrate my point with. You, on the other hand, want to appeal to how badly treated you are. We are considered automatically to be morons by people like you, Duffy. But you want to appeal to how badly you've been treated. Oh, my heart bleeds. Who cares? Earth's measured flat. You're not bleat about how you've been treated. Deal with that.
By the flat Earth community as a whole.
As a whole? No, Duffy, you lied about communicating with me about a free ticket that didn't exist. You've been challenged to provide the communications that we didn't have. You're a liar. Now, I'm going to call you out right here, right now. You're bleating about how you've been treated. I've been lied about by this man, this fraud, this scumbag, this disingenuous shitbag. Has lied about communicating with me about a free ticket that I declined. No, I didn't. The man's just a liar. He's not communicating with me. He left one comment under one of my videos. That's it. And in response to his comment to me on one video, I asked him for his hypothesis. That's it. That's the sum total of my communication with this liar. The abuse I have to suffer from frauds and liars who lie about communicating with me about free tickets. Lying bastard. The abuse. Oh, the shame, the suffering I've suffered. Nathan Oakley suffered horrendous treatment by Duffy. The lying shyster. Lying to a vast audience about tickets I haven't turned down. Not providing strings of communication where I've said, no, Duffy, I think you're a demon. No, I haven't done any of those things, Duffy. You're just a liar. So what, you're going to bleat and appeal to how you've been treated? No, we get lied about all the time by people like you. I don't need to appeal to that, though. Not when your dudes are measuring Earth flat in Antarctica, I don't.
Including the Christian flat earthers, which is very, very sad. I like to tell people that I never realized creating the final experiment, I would overtake NASA as...
You're not creating an experiment. If you did, you'd have empirical evidence at the end of the process and you wouldn't be keeping us up to date on whether or not a flat earther is going to change their mind after your empirical evidence has been presented. That's what an experiment would provide if it had been satisfied and actualized. You haven't. At best, you've got maybe a couple of the participants might change sides. Maybe. That's hardly an empirical outcome, Dumbo.
Enemy number one of the flat Earth community.
I don't see you as public enemy number one. I see you as a fraud and a shyster and a liar. That's what I see you as, and I can demonstrate facts about those things that I say about you. Fraud, he's just said experiment. No, it isn't. He's not actualizing a hypothesis. If it had any empiricism about it, there'd be no way anybody you left there would be in any doubt about the outcome. All they did was see a 24-hour sun. But he's calling it an experiment because he is a fraud. Now, I'm going to say those things because they're true.
Which hopefully this will be temporary, but the flat earthers have called me every name in the book.
Fraud, because you are. It's a demonstrable fact. You claim you've got an experiment, and when challenged, you say you could call it an expedition if you want. Then the expedition doesn't yield any actual measurements or information that's empirical in any way, shape, or form. You are a fraud, Duffy.
They've made every wild accusation.
That's not an accusation, it's a statement of fact.
The worst of which is that I'm a demon.
Oh, right. So, called it. So you're stereotyping fallacies based on what Dave said to you, then? Your map and straw man fallacy about what the model will do is based on what Dave puts in his app, then? So this is basically TFE versus Dave Weiss, then?
Or I am working for Satan. Wow. And the last person that...
No, indirectly, I could say that. You're working for Satan with your deceit and lies. and you're fraud. Yeah? When you lie about offering me a ticket and then offering nobody any communications that we've had because we haven't had any, that makes you a fraud. You're working for Satan when you do that. By your standards, not mine. That's deceit.
I'm sorry. Would Satan have a problem with him telling a congregation of people that lying and deceit, that's okay? But would that be a Satan type thing or not?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that it suggests that the words of Satan would be backed up by the words of the Bible. Misrepresentations of the words of Christ and our Lord and Saviour would be used by Satan to appeal to them to deceive and lie. And what do you know? Duffy's telling a congregation that the Bible says it's okay to deceive and lie, as he deceives and lies about people like me, and then appeals to how badly treated he is.
That made that claim was actually a pastor whose name is Dean Odell. And so
at least you've mentioned specifically the one individual who has done this then.
He released a video about the final experiment where he said that the only two entities that can control the weather are Lucifer and the United States government. I don't know why he
Oh, what? Who cares?
Forgot God in that equation, but he claims that I worked with Satan to clear the weather in Antarctica and fake a 24-hour sun. These are the lengths that these people will go to protect this precious belief of theirs.
Okay. Duffy will lie about offering free tickets he doesn't have to lie and protect his globe belief. And then whenever it comes to us pointing out measurements that would be useful to prove it one way or the other, he ignores them and talks about how beautiful the view is and just assumes that there's islands down there by antipodal assumption, something else we pointed out that is ignored. But yeah, it seems like you walk with Satan by your own standards there, Duffy. Don't have to like it, but I agree with Dean Odell in that regard. His standards of evidence aren't as good as ours. We just offer measurements. We offer your measurements, Duffy, to prove Earth's flat.
Going foundationally, I mean, it's pretty clear that these flat earthers, many of these guys,
stereotyping fallacy to follow.
They've been really deceived and indoctrinated into belief.
Really? So indoctrinated into belief? No, mate, I'm talking about flat Earth measurements. Nothing I've stated here is based on belief. When I called Duffy a fraud, I gave examples of how he's been a fraud. That's not based on belief either, is it? So your stereotyping fallacies failed immediately, son. Go on, Neil.
Deceived. This is Danny Faulkner and another supposed Christian, right? Show me where I've been deceived in the Bible that I'm on a spinning water ball. Show me that. Oh, you can't.
Believing this flat earth fairy tale, which is really quite sad. I really feel sorry for a lot of these guys. And it's clear that many of these guys don't actually care about the truth. They're only...
Really? So you'll respond to me. So lest you be labelled a scumbag, disingenuous liar who's not interested in the truth, you will make a response to me. What's this guy's name? I want to address him by name. Earth is measured flat. That's not a could be true, could be my belief. That's a statement of fact. Now look at Toon's elevation angle measurements from the sun. Those are flat Earth prerequisites. Look at the tools that they use and how they functionally operate with respect to a flat plane. I want you personally to address these facts that prove Earth is flat, given that you've just stereotyped me like I can't accept truth.
Interested in confirming their story, and what you just mentioned, I mean, basically just proves that. But I just want to know, in your own thoughts, why are flat earthers, Christian flat earthers, and
you're asking him to divine the thoughts of an entire community. Third time's a charm. You want to know what Duffy thinks about an entire community's beliefs now? You're obsessed, mate.
They're so resistant to changing their beliefs, even after...
I'm not resistant to changing anything. Earth's measured flat. Change that. You think I can change that as a belief? How can I change it? I say Earth's measured flat. Toon goes to Antarctica and comes back with flat Earth measurements. He's confirming everything I've ever said. How am I supposed to disbelieve it? This is nonsensical drivel.
Receiving and seeing such overwhelming evidence for a globe.
That's a tough
one. What evidence did you present so far for a globe that was overwhelming? So far, we've had we'll see a 24-hour sun and the islands down there, and then lots of violations of the directionality in 2 dimensions described with south. So there's been nothing that proves beyond a doubt that we're on a globe so far. Absolutely nothing.
one. I think people in general, not just flat earthers, struggle to give things up that they've held for so long and that
It's just projection.
Oh my gosh.
they've made such a public ordeal about. So it's
Right, like you being a fraud, changing the name from experiment, which it isn't, to expedition, affirming the consequent, using false dichotomies, those sorts of things.
It's tough to say. I do think one of the things that flat earth is rooted in would be a form of Gnosticism, having special knowledge and feeling like you're special.
Really? So do I feel special when I point out McToon's measurements of a flat earth? Is that Gnosticism and me feeling special? Or is it just me pointing out that they're two straight lines meeting at a vertex and it's measuring with respect to the ground? Or that the tools that you're levelling with respect to the equatorial plane require Earth be a flat plane? Is that something that's Gnostic? Or is it just statements of facts?
Because you have
it's
this
nothing
knowledge.
special. Hold on. What's special about that? Anybody could do that.
They do.
Anybody could use a sextant.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a professor of having special knowledge.
You're special because you know something we don't.
Oh, and maybe he's alluding to his con man grifter Jaren, who's selling dick lifts for 400 quid. She'll thank you for it for 400 bucks. Yeah, Jaren's got shyster, hidden special knowledge in a very cult-like way. We don't do that here. I'm not hiding anything. Celestial navigation, were very well documented. Elevation angle measurements, very well defined. You're measuring a flat Earth to measure them. Toon measured them.
Knowledge, and then also feeling like you have to get it out there. So you become a hero in your mind.
Says you just spent 200 odd grand to get it out there, and you might have two of your participants change sides, maybe. Sorry, you felt compelled. This is pure projection, Duffy.
In your own world, because you have to combat this lie and you've got to convince everybody of.
Well, wasn't that your exact justification for going, quote, down there by antipodal assumption? This is projection, Duffy. This is what you needed.
The truth. But the reality is, we don't live on a flat Earth. We live.
Why did you measure it flat then? Why did you level your tools to the equatorial plane then? Do you want to explain that to me, Duffy? Because I'm a bit confused. If you're saying Earth's not flat, why use a flat Earth for the tools and why measure elevation angles off a flat Earth? That's very confusing. It had to be flat for your measurements. Furthermore, NTSB data proves that all journeys are on a flat plane. That's how it's measured. Nose up with respect to horizontal. Black and white NTSB pitch data. Now, you told Brian that he'd have to buy into your affirming the consequent fallacy if you were even going to talk to him. Until we acquired the pitch data, then you seemed very concerned about it. Meanwhile, you're just telling us about how beautiful the view is when your antipodal assumption of down there kicks in. Yeah, that's not going to be very useful or convincing to anybody that actually got half a brain. But meanwhile, what us flat earthers, we need to convince people, do we? No, we just take your measurements and then show them to you. Him's sake, thank you very much for the super chat. I'm sure I missed out shouting out somebody else as well that gifted memberships.
It's funny. They got to get out there. Oh, I'm sorry. How many globe defenders have popped up since this became a thing? That whose literal mission every day is to shut flat earthers down. Who are the ones that have to get out there again? I'm sorry, confused.
No,
It is very confusing.
This is a campaign again against the flat earthers who have been fans of Jaren, whom Jaren is now eating his fans for believing in him and his beliefs. And they've seen us adjacent to those folks for years. Well, Duffy knows who Nathan Oakley is. He knows what our stance is. And he chooses to ignore that to continue to be a bigot.
Shout out to him's sake. Once you know Earth is measured flat, you don't have the luxury to believe falsehoods of Earth curve. Yeah, exactly. There's no walking away when you know how Earth's measured. All you can do is spot it every time it gets presented. Thanks for the super chat.
Like I said before, we're the dangerous ones. See, Jaren latched onto the model or map or whatever you think it is that whatever straw man it is that he decided to latch onto when he started this. We haven't. So that's why he's all about Jaren, right? There is a man now. seen videos all over the place. The greatest flat earther who proves it's a globe. Yeah. That's where he's at.
Shout out to Jardo for gifting 20 memberships. Wow. Thank you very much, Jardo. Really appreciate it.
Live on a globe, and they are wasting way too much time on this, in my opinion, when if the entire flat earth community just gave this up.
Oh, this is wishful thinking, isn't it? Look, I've done my bit. I've gone down by antipodal assumption to Antarctica. I've seen my 24-hour sun. Now, you guys, can't you just stop now? Who's making that noise?
He just lied, though. The entire flat Earth community. No, you lied straight up.
Yeah, no, it's wishful thinking. He's hoping that, you know, come on, guys, can't you just stop now? Can't you just shut your channel? Come on.
Up and instead focused on something that would benefit society, man, I think this world would be a much better place.
How many homeless could you have fed with 200 grand, Duffy? You didn't achieve anything. At best, 2 of your participants might change sides. That's what you've committed to based on 200 grand spent. What a disgraceful waste of money. But you now think that people could be doing better things. What, we should be getting on with it. I was already getting on with it. Everything that came out of your camp that cost a huge amount of money that could have been better spent on the homeless proved Earth was measured flat.
This is why I call flat Earth a cult.
Really? Not at all culty to deny the measurements of Earth that they're all gathering up from down there.
Got all these characteristics of a cult, you know, maintaining some central core belief system, being flat Earth.
Really? No, me pointing out that Earth's measured flat, Duffy, and what's this guy's name again? Faulkner. They're not beliefs. They're measurements. They're your measurements in this instance. Like elevation angle measurements provided by McToon. Or levelling the tools with respect to the equatorial plane. It's an equatorial mount that they use, right? He clarified that. Why would you now claim that I'm in a cult when all I'm doing is pointing out the measurements of Earth that was flat, that was taken in Antarctica? And pointing out that when you say down, it violates the principle of directionality that you use to get there. When you say it looked beautiful out the window, I point out that the plane measured Earth flat. How is that anything to do with what you're saying about cult-like behaviour? It isn't, Duffy. It's wishful. It isn't, Faulkner. It's wishful thinking on your part.
And you will bend everything to that one core.
Right, bend? What an interesting turn of phrase. What, like bend elevation angle measurements that Duffy and Toon made? Yeah? No, they're angles. Elevation angles off a flat baseline. You know, you could call it the equatorial plane that they're measuring, if you like. Like they're level 2 with their equatorial mounts.
For belief, if you don't, then it's over.
Yeah,
I know your belief is that those measurements of a flat Earth are actually with respect to a bent line that couldn't give you the angles that you were measuring on a flat Earth. So you're bending the measurements they've given us so far, which were all flat Earth proof.
I'm not an expert like Danny, but I've been reading.
Danny's no expert in anything. He's an utter clown. He told people that he should be approached to be challenged on this stuff, and he was approached by Nathan Thompson about how you can have gas pressure without a container, and he went to a hillbilly redneck clown who showed 3 containers. Don't appeal to this man for knowing anything. He's an utter clown.
Researching the flat earth for a few years now, and it definitely seems like they are holding on to
stereotyping fallacy to follow.
Like you were saying, a cultic religious belief here.
Really? So when I point out McToon's measurement, is that me holding a cult-like belief in McToon's flat Earth measurements of elevation angles? Is that a cult-like belief? Or is that just a measurement of Earth being flat?
And from our last interview, I think this is really no surprise. We predicted that many flat earthers would not be...
Predicted? Oh, here we go. This is going to have a lot of credence because he said the word prediction. I predicted that they'd make an antipodal assumption without validation. They did. So scientifically, I debunked the globe by that prediction because I was right. I also predicted that they'd go down and measure a flat Earth. And we'd just have to wait for them to give us their measurements of a flat Earth. I predicted that before they gave them us. And I was proven right. My prediction was validated. Therefore, I've proven, by your standards, scientifically, that Earth is flat. It's not, it's just measured that way. It's a category error to suggest science. But nevertheless, by your own stupid standards of fraud that Duffy's laid down, it's scientifically proof Earth's flat. because it's your measurements of a flat Earth that I'm using to make that statement.
Be convinced and just explain away the evidence, what we call a rescuing device, to try to hold on to their worldview, basically rejecting basically objectable truth, observational facts, and.
What did I reject? I've made it absolutely and explicitly clear that I'm willing to accept what Duffy observed. What's that you say? You saw a 24-hour sun? Well, okay. At face value, I can accept that for the sake of discussion. And beyond any antipodal assumptions you're making, it proves absolutely nothing. Let's see the measurements. Let's move to them. Oh, we're measuring a flat Earth. Well, then we're moving towards flat Earth measurements immediately, are we? Okay, so we've measured Earth flat. Wonderful. Yeah, we already knew Earth's measured flat.
Rejecting reality itself.
Sorry, reality that you present to us with flat Earth measurements. Did I reject any of this? Or am I accepting it and throwing it back at you as flat Earth measurements because it is?
Which is really sad.
Well, there's been some claims out there among flat earthers that there's evidence that you used the green screen. Can you tell us more about that?
He did. There it is. What more do you need?
Yes, green screen gate. So when we were doing our live stream that we mentioned before.
Sorry, is that it now for the Globe Earth evidence section of this interview? Are we now on to fraud gate and green screen gate and vape gate and drone gate and shadow gate? Is that what we're going to move to? Where's the evidence?
17 gates.
Sorry? Again, chocolate.
You got 17 gates to get to, man.
Yeah.
Before we can actually get to the crux of the argument.
We don't need to go through any of these gates. CGI, yeah, it is. You've got TFE on a guy that's not wearing a shirt that says TFE on it.
At midnight, the first day we were there in Antarctica, I use a green screen, as you can tell behind me. This is not, this is a digital image behind me. And so to use a green screen, you use something which is known as chroma key.
So you used a green screen, okay? You'd have thought, given that this is fairly contentious, that you wouldn't have done that. Let's just chalk it up to you being an absolute fucking retard. Okay, no worries.
Where you tell the camera and the computer program.
Why are you going through this? It's supposed to be raw, unedited, not green screen footage, but you're justifying how a green screen works. Why? So we should accept it as being completely unedited and not green screen because you can explain how green screen that was definitely there is being used there. Okay?
We're using to remove the color green from the screen and replace it with this image.
Yeah, we are
always use a green screen. And so when we were out there in Antarctica, I forgot to turn my chroma key off.
So you're a retard. So you're thick as shit and unbelievably unqualified to be doing any of this stuff. So you couldn't even get the basics of filming it without a green screen right. Well, you're just stupid then, aren't you, Duffy? Like, unbelievably stupid. Okay, no, I'll accept that. I'm not going to reject that Duffy's just thick as shit. Too dumb to realise that it might be important to turn the green screen off. Okay, I'll accept that. Yeah, I can accept that Duffy's stupid. He's also a fraud.
And one of the flat earthers had a green patch right here on his jacket. So when he stood in front of the camera to speak...
Earth's measured flat, Duffy. None of this matters. The actual measurements beyond your incompetence were that Earth's flat. That's how it was measured. Okay, we could stay here for a little while, just demonstrate how freaking incompetent you are. Okay, let's just stay and just talk for a bit about how incompetent Duffy is.
You could see this logo right here, our TFE.
Yeah, we know you're incompetent, Duffy. Yes. How long do you need to labor how incompetent you are?
TFE logo right here on his shirt. And so the flat earthers that have used a green screen, which seems to be the minority.
Why are you now talking about what flat earthers have done? You used your green screen at a time that it was critical that you didn't do so, making you incompetent. So all this shows is that you are incompetent, Duffy. That's all it does. Well done. You're incompetent.
They immediately understood it, and they were like, oh, Will just left his chroma key on.
Like Flat Earth Dave, right? I think Flat Earth Dave made a whole video that explained that.
Yeah, it was a little weird having Flat Earth Dave come to my defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the majority of the Flat Earth community, though, does not know about a green screen. They've never used it before.
Sorry, Duffy, you're incompetent. At a time that it would be critically important not to do that, you did it, making you stupid. That's all this shows, that you're stupid. And what, you're going to talk about how shocking it was that somebody came to your defense? Why would Dave be defending your incomprehensible stupidity in this regard? I don't know. That's a different story. But we get it, Duffy. You're stupid. Okay, fine. Let's move on.
And when they saw that on his jacket, they immediately jumped to
Stereotyping fallacy to follow.
a conclusion that the whole thing was fake.
Oh, really? They did that, did they? I lent into that immediately, just so in case anybody goes, hold on a second, you said there wasn't a sun at all. Yeah, I was taking the piss out of these idiots that did that. So I did lean into that, knowing that what he's saying is correct, but all it really demonstrates is Will Duffy's incompetence. That's really all it demonstrates.
That we were using a green screen. That
you're incompetent.
We were caught.
You were caught. You did use a green screen. You are incompetent. Why are you putting it in quotes? Shall I do it too?
It literally.
Go on.
It's literally him copying the pleas right now as he's trying to say that we didn't get caught. But you're explaining how you got caught.
Yeah, Will Duffy is
Mr. Duffy.
Incompetent.
Because of this glitch, and they ran with that story, which again is not a characteristic of someone looking for truth. It is not a
Sorry, a characteristic of somebody incompetent is they leave their green screen on. Why are you now attacking the people who pointed it out when it's absolutely the case? So somebody catching you, in quotes, with green screen, you were with green screen, you did get caught, it was absolutely the case that you are incompetent, but this is somebody not looking for truth. No, Duffy, it's just you being incompetent.
a characteristic of something who wants to research things and who wants to learn.
So somebody points out that there's a green screen being used, says there's a green screen being used, and there is a green screen being used. That's indicative of somebody who's looking for lies. I see. What shit for brains logic is this exactly, Duffy? No, it's just you masking your own incompetence, isn't it? Yes.
It's a characteristic of someone who wants...
Who's incompetent? You. Why aren't we talking about you and what you did with your incompetence? No, we're talking about the people who reacted to your incompetence. Yeah. Typical shyster behavior from a fraud.
To just jump to conclusions.
Sorry, it wasn't jumping to conclusions. It was a fact. They pointed it out. It was true. You are incompetent. That is a fact.
This is known as confirmation bias. And
Sorry, were they confirming their bias that there was a green screen when you've just confirmed it was a green screen? No, they confirmed their bias towards you as an incompetent fool who doesn't know what he's doing.
Want to interpret everything they see.
No, I will interpret what I saw. It was a green screen. Now, given you're saying that that was an accidental mistake on your part, there is only one conclusion I can draw from that. You are incompetent.
As confirming their preconceived ideas.
No, I mean, it did confirm my preconceived notion of incompetence, but that wasn't just an idea. It was already demonstrably factual that you were incompetent before, during, and after this error that you admit to. But then project out like it's somebody else's lack of truth when you demonstrate incompetence.
And so we actually ended up the next day, because we heard about this conspiracy.
Sorry, was it a conspiracy that you had a green screen on, or are you just a clown that left your green screen on because you're incompetent? It wasn't a conspiracy. No amount of disingenuous scumbag glare-free packaging will change what actually occurred in this instance, Duffy. You are an incompetent clown. You made a mistake. People pointed it out. That's it.
Traveling through the flat earth community so quickly, right?
Good.
He's doing his best rendition of a politician right now. It's actually golden.
After we live streamed, that we did another live stream the next day, probably within the next 10 hours or so, where we debunked the green screen. I flew my drone behind me a very far distance, so there was nothing behind me, and we had people live streaming all around us at the same time. So
I'd like the drone data, please, Duffy. Can you give us the drone data so I can show you how the height of the drone was with respect to a horizontal plane of reference? Because the height would be described in the drone's calculations for height with respect to sea level. So I'd like the drone data to prove Earth's measured flat with it, please. Can you provide that to me? If not, I'm just going to pester you for it. Give us the data that the drone gathered, because there's only one reason you'd be flying a drone out there, to gather data from it. So I can only assume that unless you're a scumbag who's going to now hide that data because you know it proves Earth's flat, you're going to give us that data from the drone, aren't you, Duffy? We'll see how high it was. Off a flat plane. So the Duffy data is going to be provided to us, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be providing you with another flat Earth proof. And if I don't get it, I'll be suggesting that that's Duffy in his satanic way hiding the truth from you like a conspiratorial idiot. Or I could just go and get any drone data and show that all of them will measure Earth flat.
So that's a good example of how flat earthers think and how flat earthers act.
Really? The way I thought the first thing that when responding to you in regards to this drone that you flew was how that the data that the flight is actually utilizing would only and can only reference a flat plane for the height of the drone.
Yeah, and again, from our last interview, that's basically what we said. We predicted that many flat earthers would not be convinced. Just explain away the evidence. In other words, coming up with a...
Well, I am convinced. I'm convinced with the drone data and how it will be referencing sea level for heights and elevations. I'm convinced by elevation angle measurements that Tomb made, and I'm convinced by the level plane that they leveled their tools to. There's at least 3 flat earth proofs that have been discussed just in this. What's not to like?
Rescuing device in order...
What, like the measuring devices that were leveled to a plane? Those? I'm asking you, sir, to... Did we find out what this guy's name was? To specifically address this. Because you suggested by stereotype that we are averse to truth. Now I'm telling you, not asking you, not debating with you, not offering up something that's contentious. I'm telling you that the measurements acquired in Antarctica were all flat, and I've exampled them specifically. I'd like you to address that, lest you be called a Satanist.
To hold on to their religious beliefs.
Oh, what a chance, eh? That it talk about their religious belief. Now I'm going to call you a Satanist unless you address this truth. You stereotyped me by saying I would be averse to it. Now I'm giving it you in no uncertain terms and demanding that you address it, lest you be called a dishonest Satanist.
In other words, rejecting Oh,
what a coincidence. It couldn't be better. I haven't watched this in advance. So will he reject the flat earth measurements as a good upstanding Christian? You better respond to me, or Satan's leading you, sir. It's only a reasonable conclusion. I mean, I'm using their standards here by juxtaposition.
Objective truth, rejecting observational facts. And
okay, observational fact. Toon measured Earth flat with elevation angles. The tools were measured with respect to the equatorial plane. Those are facts. Not facts that I'm saying. You were told them on this stream. Earth is measured flat, and I want an acknowledgement from this guy. Or will he be led by the hand by Satan into deceit and rejection like he's just accused us of? We shall see. Shame the devil, sir. Accept these facts.
Rejecting reality itself. And it's not
like measurements, the reality of the measurements that were taken. You're going to reject those? Come on, someone tell me his name before this live stream ends. I need to know it.
This green screen, what I did is I came up with my own little list of some of the excuses and different objections that I've seen from the flat earth community.
Let's see if my Duffy's just incompetent makes the list.
One, probably the most common I've seen, is they are in Antarctica, but they're all lying, and thus no 24-hour sun. Like you said, they're...
So how are you going to address that? You can't address that. Unless you physically go down and confirm it for yourself, you have to take their word for it.
Another one's...
Not that I'm objecting to that. I'll take their word for it. What's that? You say there's a 24-hour sun? Cool. Okay, I'll accept that face value. Don't be too surprised if next man comes along and provides compelling evidence that you were in a freaking tent of tellies, and I just nonchalantly accept that too, because it doesn't matter. When we actually get down to the nitty-gritty of how Earth's measured, it's going to be flat.
They're not in Antarctica. There's no breath, too warm, green screen, studio.
So there was no breath. These are facts. There was green screen. He's just told you that's a fact.
Number 3 I've seen is they're not in Antarctica. They're actually at the North Pole in June. In other words, there was a pre-recorded video. Another one I saw was the sun that they're seeing is actually a reflection coming off of the firmament, which a whole nother conversation there. Another one,
speculation. I mean, that's no better or worse. Go ahead.
I love the gate list we're getting right now. This is so funny.
Now, it's worth noting, because it's the first time that I'm being in a position where I have to object to seemingly my own side by stereotype. When there's a reflection off the firmament, if somebody came here with that crap, they'd get an earful too. Prove it, would be my first question to them. How do you demonstrate that's a fact? How have you proven that to be the case? Reflection off the firmament, my ass. What's the sun? Oh, you don't know? Why are you making this crap up then? It would be my response to a flat earther who suggested that. Because they can't prove it. Now, you can't prove that you're on the bottom of a ball by antipodal assumption any more than a flat earther can prove a reflection off a firmament. But you're willing to accept the antipodal assumption. I'm not willing to accept either. That's why it's a false dichotomy. An azimuthal equidistant globe projection that fails to describe this observation when assuming that we've got a local sun as per Dave's app. I don't do any of those things, and neither do the people around me. We're all flat earthers here. How could we not be? You measure Earth flat.
The one I saw is, yes, there is a 24-hour sun, but the Earth is still flat. We'll figure out a way to explain it.
Explain what? The measurements of that sun that have come back thus far were all flat. The tracking of the sun for 24 hours was done with respect to a flat plane. I can't accept anything else. There's been no globe evidence presented. The only suggestion thus far is to assume that south is down. It isn't.
And then the other one, also common, is it doesn't really matter because the light in the sky above can't really tell us anything about the Earth's shape.
Really? What about when we take geographical positions and navigate with the sun? I'd say that tells us a lot. The mapping system that you're trying to debunk that's been projected onto a globe to then be projected as azimuthal equidistant came from those flat Earth measurements of the sun and stars. So you're telling me we can't learn anything from where the sun is above at a given time? Yeah, we can. The only reason we've got a heliocentric system is to better utilise flat Earth measurements of angles. To better predict where the lights will be at given times, because where they're above in terms of land position, that's geographical position, GP, is absolutely the fundamental premise that's making the maps. That's how we chart the land. That's how we've used these lights in the sky. They're absolutely useful. And what do you know? You're measuring them too, with flat Earth elevation angles. So you say it's got nothing to do with the ground. You're measuring it with respect to angles on the ground, though. So even in your own examples of the measurements that you've taken and fraudulently claimed are experiments, they're just measurements of a flat Earth.
Below, that's essentially kind of the list that I came up with. What are some other excuses from flat earthers that you've heard so far?
Yeah, they're coming up with everyone that you can think of. Another one is footprint gate.
So nothing that we suggest is ever going to... We're the only people that have been unaffected by this. We're the only people with actual rebuttals to any of it. Now, some people like to take the strap line, the punch line from our rebuttals, like Earth is measured flat, without actually appreciating what that means, or being capable of giving examples of it alongside it, or using their measurements in their evidentiary standard to show Earth's measured flat. Now, I realise that it's just a nice strap line to put onto the end of things when you're claiming it doesn't matter. But we actually have had arguments, and still do to this day present the arguments to the people at TFE. They just don't get addressed. What does get addressed is the loudest shouting conspiratard flirfs out there that talk about footprints.
They're claiming that they have video of us walking on the snow and not leaving footprints.
Show a video of them walking on the snow and not showing footprints. Okay, so they're right. I mean, it matters not, but they are in fact right, because you've literally just shown that to me. Up until this point, I didn't care, but now you've shown me a video of you not making footprints. What the hell? Meanwhile, Earth's measured flat in everything that they've practically done there.
And so what's funny about that one is the people saying that they have to be people that have not experienced snow in their life. No, I haven't seen one flat earther make mention of the pattern on the snow. The snow is graded where they're looking at this. And so the company that we went to Antarctica with...
Graded? It might be too early to say this, but would you not need to grade it with respect to a plane of reference to describe the grade from? Maybe I'm getting their terminology wrong. Too early to say. We'll look into what he means by graded, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to extract the flat earth proof from that. We'll see.
With Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions, ALE, they actually groomed the snow for us for two reasons. First and foremost, for our safety. So we were at a camp outside of Union Glacier so that the sun would stay above Mount Rossman there. So we could film the sun the entire time. And so they need to make sure there are no crevasses that we're going to fall into and die. And so they groom it with a big, heavy piece of equipment for that reason. And the second reason was to level the ground for us so that it wasn't all
So there is no level to reference how flat it is if you're on a sphere. So where do you get anything to reference level from? You can't level the ground if you're on a sphere. You've only got in and out. All of the axiomatic descriptions to level anything ever require a horizontal plane of reference to level it to. So you're leveling the ground, okay? And that uses the ball. How? Oh, it can't. You need a flat plane to level it to. Horizontal plane of reference for leveling. Go ahead, whoever that was.
So wait a second. Do they groom the snow to make sure there's no crevasses? Is this guy retarded?
I don't know. What I do know is they're leveling it to something. They need a horizontal plane of reference to level it to. You don't have that on a globe.
Wait a second. Let's go out there. Let's groom the snow out there. Check for crevasses. He's a retard.
I don't know about his terminology. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's what the lingo.
I do.
Maybe that's the lingo they use down there. Down being an.
I do. That's why I said it. You don't check for crevasses by grooming the snow. For God's sake.
Wouldn't you use your eyeballs for that? Shout out to him's sake. FYI, his name is Robert Webb on the right. Robert Webb, you've charged us by stereotype of denying evidence. Now, I've directly addressed you with evidence that was acquired by the lying shyster that's standing next to you in this shot. I want you to address that, Mr. Webb, lest you be described as being led by the hand of Satan himself.
All hilly and bumpy, so we could put our tripods up and film the sun.
Like, did you just slap up a couple of tripods? Was that the process, Duffy? You seem to be a bit loose and fast with the truth there. Is that all you did? You just opened up a couple of tripods? There was me thinking that they were equatorial mounts, like quite sophisticated in their operation, and would require leveling, a bit like your grooming. With respect to the equatorial plane. You'll need a flat earth for that tripod that you've brushed past quite quickly, given that it's a flat earth piece of evidence that you're alluding to. Oh no, you're just brushing past it quickly, aren't you?
And so when you compact snow, it changes. It's not just fluffy snow that has just fallen fresh.
I hate to do this. If that's the case, why is there some footprints there, but not yours? That makes no sense. If you're saying they flattened it, therefore no footprints, then there can be no footprints. But there's some footprints, just not yours. Now, I'll say it again, I couldn't give a crap, this is inconsequential, but it does seem like a stupid generalization to say it's been compacted, therefore no footprints, but yet when you actually look at the pictures that he's presenting, they're shown as having some footprints, just not theirs, as they walk on this snow.
And so you've got that, the temperature.
Furthermore, I saw Whitsitt walk about 10 steps and gather up loose snow.
Does change in Antarctica based on conditions, wind, etc. And so there were times where we had to be.
What wind? There wasn't any wind. We didn't hear a breath of it in any of the videos.
Walk carefully because that compacted snow had turned into ice. And so we do have video of us leaving footprints, but they're just going to, again, take something out of context and blow it out of proportion.
Yeah, okay, I'll agree with you. It's just another gate.
I would like to get back to the Gnosticism you mentioned, and I agree that there's a lot of, I think the appeal is a secret knowledge. But for the Christian flat earthers, they believe they see.
But didn't he say on a radio interview that they don't know how this stuff works? I know how this stuff works. You should have come to me. So who's the one professing to have secret knowledge, Faulkner, you bullshitter? You are! On radio shows! The only problem is the secret knowledge you alluded to was challenged by Nathan Thompson when he asked you how you have gas pressure without a container, and you didn't say a single sodding word. You waited 10 days and then went and asked Hillbilly Blue Balls, the redneck retard, how you can have gas pressure without a container, and he gave you an example with 3 containers in it. So you're the only one who's alluding to having special hidden knowledge. You specifically sold your secret hidden knowledge that we didn't know on a radio show. Didn't you?
Scripture clear evidence that the earth is flat, even though there's no verse that actually says anything like. I oftentimes get this challenge from people, from flat earthers, saying, well, prove from Scripture alone that the earth is a sphere. They're so confident they can't do that, and they're so confident they can, from Scripture, argue the earth is flat. Well, they can't.
Okay, let's see if this disingenuous scumbag now offers up a scripture that definitively proves, by way of its statement, within Scripture in the context of Christians accepting it as true, the Earth's a sphere. Let's see if he now presents that to back what he's just said.
Can't. Neither one of us can. You can't use Scripture alone to prove.
Oh, I see. So now you just can't use it. So when they said, well, I've forgotten what he suggested they say now, and I don't want to misrepresent his straw man.
That Antarctica exists, though I'm pretty certain it does. I can't prove from the Bible alone that I have a spleen, though I'm pretty certain I probably have one.
False comparison fallacy. You're saying by comparison that you should be able to prove Earth is a sphere with the globe. But I can't paraphrase what he strawmanned his opponent with, so you need to just present a Bible verse that says Earth's a globe. That's it.
There are so many questions that we might have that the Bible does not give us a direct answer to.
Oh, I see. So if it doesn't give you a direct answer to it, then you can assume that Earth's a ball based on the Bible, then, can you?
Or even an indirect answer to in many cases. I think it's pretty lousy epistemology. They're basically professing that they can only believe things if the Bible tells them so, and that is just a...
What's wrong with that? If you're a Christian and you believe it's the word of God, then shouldn't that be the standard? Shouldn't you absolutely take the word of God seriously? Mike, I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Wrong-headed attitude for Christians to have.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's the wrong attitude to take the words of the Bible literally. And if it's not specifically telling you something one way or the other in a Bible, you wouldn't take the word of men over and above the Bible, and that's wrong according to Faulkner.
It is. When you use the Bible and you interpret the Bible in a way that contradicts reality, the only message you're sending to the world is that the Bible is false. And so this is a very dangerous idea.
Yeah, I agree. So when you start saying that the world's a ball when the Bible doesn't lay it out in that way, that's particularly dangerous. I'd agree.
Idea and ideology that is growing within the church. And I really hope Christians see that.
What, the ideology of ball worship, heliocentrism, sun at center? Yeah, that's very concerning.
What church might that be?
His church.
And by the way, Revelation 20 verse 9 says it's a flat earth. There's sunshine.
What does it say specifically?
Revelation 20 verse 9, and they went up on the breadth of the earth, encompassed the camp, the saints about, and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. That word breath right there, that is the Greek definition of plateaus, G4114 from G4116, plateau, spread out, meaning flat. Thank you.
Also, you said came down. Did you say? Spread fire or something? Down?
No, went up on they went up and then came down, and then the fire came down.
Up and down a reference to a flat plane only. You don't have up or down on a ball.
When you tell somebody that the world that you live on is not the world that the Bible says God created, you are...
Right, so which world that God says he created? Because now you're suggesting that people say it's not the world in the Bible. That's what he's now inferring, isn't he? So therefore, by inference, you are suggesting that the globe is suggested in the Bible.
Yes, he is.
Or telling them that the Bible is wrong.
We can.
What was the quote that was wrong that they said was wrong? He didn't present anything, Duffy. What he got was a baseless assertion. Now, by stereotype, they say that's wrong. What's wrong? The only person who gave a Bible quote was Quantum Eraser.
Use science to.
You don't know what science is.
Probe the world around us. That's what science is all about. And
no, it isn't. It elucidates cause for a phenomenon you observe in nature. It's called the scientific method.
You know, science was founded by some...
Is he stuttering because he knows he's talking complete nonsense?
Biblically minded men 400 years ago. It's drifted quite a bit since then, but the science is not a dirty word at all. We're creation.
Nobody said it was. It's a dirty word when people use the word experiment, which is a science word, out of context. Then it becomes fraud. Then it becomes very dirty, like Duffy.
We want to make sure we come back to the touchstone of Scripture to make sure our idea.
But you were just talking about science, and now you're talking about Scripture. Why are you convoluting these two things? They're very separate things. Science is a method for elucidating the cause of naturally occurring phenomena. The Bible is the Bible.
Do not contradict Scripture, but we don't have to believe things.
Contradict what? You're like, by fear, assuming that there's some global reference in the Bible that we are denying. Well, give it us.
Only because they come from the Bible. That, again, that's a very, very poor understanding of how knowledge works, and we'll call that epistemology.
Knowledge works.
This word salad drivel. This is meaningless drivel.
Yeah, I think what's important, something we say all the time at Answers in Genesis as our ministry, is the Bible, God's word, is our starting point. It forms the foundation for our worldview. We have a biblical worldview, and that is our.
Doesn't the Bible have quotes about foundations as well when it's talking about Earth? Setting upon the foundations of Earth or something like that?
Ultimate authority.
Yeah.
We start with.
He set the Earth on pillars, right? On a foundation. Not flying through a sky vacuum.
God's word to then interpret the facts around us, to interpret, like Danny was saying, all the science around us. One thing.
He's now saying it. What science around us? Okay, now we've got an ethereal method that's all around us, like the Holy Spirit. No, that's the Holy Spirit. That can be everywhere. Science is a method that you can employ if you want to elucidate the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. It's also the fraud that Duffy's employing because he doesn't have it.
You hear all the time even from Christians, they'll say that the evidence.
But all over the place.
Say again?
So science is like light. It's already there. You just gotta, I don't know, do the experiment to illuminate it.
Well, it's just claimed science is omnipotent. That's why it's just a.
Yes, it's everywhere.
There's
science in the room with you right now, Nate.
Speaks for itself, and I usually tell people if
the science speaks for itself. It's acquired lips. It's everywhere, and it's now speaking for itself.
And then starts talking to you, you should probably run. But we always have a worldview that we bring to the table. We always interpret evidence in light of our worldview. And as Christians,
whoa! Wasn't the last sentiment that you shouldn't be interpreting the Bible?
Yep.
Okay.
It's very important that we start with that biblical worldview to do so, and that's what we mean in terms of starting with Scripture, having the authority. Starting with God's word, God's infallible word, because really there's only two options. There is no neutrality. Jesus says you're either with me or against me. You either start with God's word or man's word.
Right in Genesis, you've got the heavens and earth being created, not a solar system that later gives birth to gravitational accretion of an earth that developed long after the sun. So if you're going to take the Christian worldview, then why on earth would you ever believe that we were heliocentric when that's described as gravitationally accreted, or whatever the word is, a gravitational accretion effect? God is your gravity in heliocentrism, because that's what created the Earth, according to that model. Actually, not a model, it's a paradigm. I'm going to get a slap. I can feel it coming.
You're teetering on the edge. 1, 2...
In that paradigm.
And so that's really what we're trying to say here.
Yeah, the Bible is not supposed to be an exhaustive resource that covers every.
Is it not? I mean, I'm not a big Bible scholar, but I've heard the complete contrapositive of that asserted to me. Like, it's an all-encompassing source. Like, there's pretty much nothing you can't get out of the Bible that isn't going to be applicable to your life and generally leading it in a positive way. So when he says that, what does he mean? Is he decrying the word of God again?
Single topic. It is an incredible resource, and it tells us so much about history, but it's not exhaustive. And so my view is this. I cannot comprehend this incredible world we live on and this incredible universe that we live in not having a creator.
Sorry, universe that we live in. So straight away, based on your words, you're decrying the words of the Bible then?
Yep.
God created the heavens and the earth. not the universe that later gave birth to a world that you now stand on that's moving around the sun. So you're decrying the word of God, literally.
That position makes zero sense to me. And so what I love about this world and this universe is the more we explore it,
back to universe. You love the universe. You're an idolater.
That's right. Said it right there.
You're worshipping an
he
idol.
Loves the world.
Yep. You're worshipping an idol. You don't trust in God. You don't trust in Jesus. You trust in the heliocentric paradigm created by men at the behest of the Roman Catholic Church. That's what you believe in.
We are exploring God's creation and we're learning more about him.
No, you described it as a universe. That universe, through gravitational accretion in the church's rhetoric of heliocentrism, gave birth to that earth. Definitely not the earth being described in Genesis. Definitely not.
Through that process.
And also, speaking of the Bible, speaking of God's word, the Bible repeatedly states that you need 2 or 3 witnesses that are required as a standard to establish any matter. And so as you're talking, I just kept thinking, on top of all the video evidence that we have, we also have eyewitness testimony from...
No. When, oh my God, I'm not even a Bible scholar. Why should I know this better than he? This guy on the channel answers in Genesis. Oh my God. When they talk about having that 3, it's 3 references from 3 different witnesses from within the Bible's context, from within those pages. It doesn't directly transfer out to you saying that you can find 3 witnesses to Kermit the Frog being real. That's not what it means.
Many of not only globe earthers, but also flat earthers. And I think some of the flat earthers even also claim to be a Christian. So we have a credible eyewitness testimony of the 24-hour sun that you've seen in Antarctica and a lot of the results. But I just keep thinking, is that enough to convince? Have you seen that being able to convince anyone in the flat earth community?
I don't get it. Why is this being juxtaposed? Whether or not somebody is in line with Jesus, accepts him as their Lord and Savior, has absolutely no bearing on this subject matter whatsoever, does it?
Yeah, but what are they convincing us of? What, the 24-hour sun? Is that it? Yeah, okay. We're convinced. And?
Yeah, that's a really good point you're bringing up. The Bible is pretty clear on a matter being established with 2 or 3 witnesses. Obviously, that's being done through God's wisdom. Knowing just one person could lie, but having 2 or 3 witnesses, you can establish something as truth. And
that's being described contextually when you're looking at the Bible's literature itself, though. That's what they're talking about when they say that.
Have seen flat earthers already leaving flat earth because of the final experiment.
Oh, how joyous. Yeah, they weren't flat earthers. They just believed Earth was flat.
We've covered this on our channel.
Yeah. Following in the footsteps of a man who already knew the model he's using to take all these flat earthers that believed it was flat down with him. He already knew it was debunked. You know, he's just bought into this stereotype. The only benefit is to decry a flat earth belief. Well, we don't care. All right, you only believed Earth was flat anyway. Good, go back to the ball.
Channel if you want to see some of those emails and hear about these people, but I am being contacted. Someone just sent me a YouTube video experiment. We've covered this on our channel if you want to see some of those emails and hear about these people, but I am...
Okay. Yeah, I would. I'd like you to present our communication that we never had that you lied about. I'd like to see those emails. Show me the emails where I declined a free ticket, please. Can you show the audience that, you lying scumbag? You will freely offer the emails that anybody asks about. You made it explicitly clear to an audience that I declined a ticket to Antarctica. Show us those emails where I declined that ticket, please, Duffy. As you're so willing to present emails if anybody asks. I'm asking. If you're an audience member, I want you to bombard this lying shitbag to present the emails where I declined the ticket. He's explicitly stated that on many videos, hasn't he? Nathan turned down a ticket. Okay, show us the emails, Duffy. Show us where Nathan says, no, I'm not going. Show us those emails, you lying piece of shit.
Being contacted. Someone just sent me a YouTube video recently, a flat earther named Nick, and he said he's out of flat earth now because of the final.
So that's one so far. One.
experiment. So these things do take time. They're not just going to happen overnight.
Why? If I empirically demonstrate something, I expect the people I show it to accept it. Now, when they don't because they've got zealotry in their veins, that's a different story. But empirical evidence, there's no disputing it. There's no arguing with it unless you're a clown. When I present a measurement of Earth to the person who's saying, look at my flat Earth elevation angle measurement. This proves Earth can't be flat. I go, it can only be flat. That's how you've just measured it. There's no debating that anymore.
But I do expect to see a significant fallout.
Say again?
But yet it's constantly being challenged. I don't understand how measurements can be challenged.
Well, they're presented to us by them as being a proof that Earth is measured as a sphere. Here's my measurements, and Earth is a sphere as a result of my measurements. Okay, says us. Your measurements are of a flat Earth. They're not measurements! We're not measuring Earth! That's what we get, isn't it?
Not the ground.
It's not the ground!
But the most important thing I think we will see is it's going to...
Just to point this out, somebody from the chat's done this, it wasn't me, but someone's put, Nick! Smiling face, laughing face, laughing face. Yeah, Nick, that famous flat earther's no longer a flat earther. Did we all know this? Nick's not a flat earther, by the way, everyone. Who the hell's Nick? Well, we'll hold a little memorial for Nick, shall we? The one flat earther that's been named that's left. Oh, the two that actually viewed it with their own eyes, they haven't yet, but they might. We'll see. We'll keep you posted, right, Duffy? Worth 100 grand easy.
To be very difficult going forward for the flat earth community to recruit new people.
I couldn't give a toss. I'm not recruiting anybody. This isn't Scientology. If you come here and find out Earth's measured flat by way of, let's say you use the TFE measurements of elevation angles for the sake of argument. Once you've found that out, you can disappear. I don't care. Get on with your day. It doesn't matter. You don't need to hang around. Now, if you like what I do, obviously support me with money because I need to keep the lights on and pay the mortgage. And we're in a community where we're heavily censored. We've got these wiki things underneath us. Things like that. Yeah? So it's quite difficult to eke out a living in this community. But aside from that, just know Earth's flat and then get on with your day. You don't have to stay. You don't have to support me financially. I'm not trying to recruit you. Far from it. I even say to my own panel members when they're like, Neil specifically, where is everybody? I'm like, there's no obligation to be here, Neil. Nobody has to come on my show. I'd do it on my own if I had to. I've done it before. I'll do it again. If this all falls out of favour, I'll still find the subject fascinating because Earth is measurably flat. That will never change. Until there isn't a predominant worldview that we're on a ball, I'll always be doing this subject even if nobody turns up.
Into this flat earth world because they are going to hear about the final experiment and they're going to hear about all of the experiments that...
Are they? This sounds like wishful thinking, Duffy. No, you're like yesterday's newspaper. Give it 6 months and no one will even remember this happened. Yeah? It's not like throughout the 6 months preceding you going down by antipodal assumption to Antarctica, everyone was throwing up 24-hour Sun Antarctic videos that already existed. Yes, they had already been claimed to be fake, but nobody was using them in arguments. Yeah? If this was something that nailed the coffin shut, we'd be nailing it shut non-stop and having to constantly say, no, we think this is fake footage. Wouldn't we? So you've not changed anything. This is pure wishful thinking, Duffy.
That we did both in South America and Antarctica, and I think it's going to be difficult to...
South America, like south with respect to a plane? Like a two-dimensional compass direction. Well, that proves a flat Earth. You travelled south. Oh, did you forget to include your antipodal assumption of down there on the bottom of a ball by assumption before we do a damn thing? Did you forget to include that? You just used the flat Earth south direction, did you? I see.
Make new recruits because of all of this overwhelming evidence. Again,
it's not, you haven't proved anything. The measurements are what you've actually presented in forms of evidence. Now, if there was a dispute about whether or not there was a 24-hour sun, you could accept what you have presented as being evidence of a 24-hour sun without it being consequential to a flat Earth measurement that you all made down there.
Against flat Earth.
I did see that in one of your recent YouTube videos. You mentioned that people have been emailing you their testimony saying that they've now abandoned their flat Earth beliefs because...
Really? How many have we had? We've had one so far. Nick. That's it.
of the final experiment. Can you point people to where they can go to email
Nick?
you if they know maybe them?
Yeah, I'm really sorry. Didn't you hear? Nick's not a flat earther anymore, Neil. I'm really sorry. This is
The
first
flat
time.
Earth guy, Nick? He's
Yeah.
not, oh my goodness.
Seriously, we lost Nick.
Wow.
Who'd have thunk it, eh?
Himself,
He
or he knows
renounced his beliefs.
He renounced his belief in flat Earth. Oh no. Yes, still measured flat for us though, eh? We can't walk away.
someone who has changed their mind on flat Earth because of the final experiment?
Like, change their mind? It's not in the mind. That's how it's measured. For the people who it is in their mind, whether or not it might or might not be, they can all disappear for all I care. I don't, they're all believers in a flat Earth. Well, that's not useful.
Yes. So my email is located on our website, which is the final experiment.
Sorry, he was asking you to evidence the masses of people, right? Not give out your email address so more people can allegedly contact you about them relinquishing a flat Earth belief. That's not how he phrased the question.
.com with dashes. So the-final-experiment.com. And
The illustrate.
Right, I think I'm going to round out on that particular note. So with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video. Shout out to Flat Earth 24/7 Discord or 24/7 Flat Earth Discord to get the name right. Duffy, quote, "This overwhelming evidence," end quote, rolling around laughing emoji. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show.